as it's dropping. So that was what I did. That is the control that is very prevalent in our society. Why? We are still 50 years behind. So it's time to fast track. And health and safety, it's time to fast track the whole process, because we are not inventing. We invent, but now we are not inventing. So what do you need to do? Transfer it faster. And that's what this leadership and building the future is all about. Transfer it faster, bring it closer than you think. And that's what we are doing here. So if somebody is sharing and say, this is what is happening here, this is what is happening here, you had better start aligning to it, otherwise we'll leave you behind. Let's move to the next slide, please. So safety has actually evolved. We are no longer where we used to be. Even though in Nigeria, it doesn't look like it. So the past should be the past. So, and this is what we have always been told. And this is what is still happening in Nigeria, by the way. But this is in the past. And I said this past must be the past. HSE profession, we have been told it's not a profession. Oh yes, we have been told. In fact, in some businesses today, there is no safety person recognized there, because that's not a job. So can you set up a safety department and employ a safety officer, a safety manager? They say, what for? So presently in Nigeria, and I don't have the statistics correct, but by little work I do, maybe I can say maybe about 50% industries still do not accept myself, my brother Idris, Wale. They don't accept our safety people. They say you don't have work to do. Now this happened to me practically some 15, 17 years ago. I was offshore, and you know the way we work. I have my piece of paper, I have my pen. I was doing a risk assessment and hazard spotting, and I saw this guy, mechanical guy, who was maintaining a pump, and he was working very seriously maintaining a pump offshore. And I was doing that pump maintenance. He had oils all over his body. And then I walked to him because I saw him getting close to the edge of the platform, and that is man overboard. I wasn't ready for that, so I quickly went and I said, hey bro, you are getting close, can you pull down? Just move this way. And the guy got angry, and I didn't know why he was angry. But by the time he reluctantly moved towards me, you know what he said? He said, this one way they do not work. If you see people where they work, you know. I mean, this somewhere in the Delta area offshore. He told me to my face. He said, this one you carry barrel, you carry paper. This one I work. You know, see people where they work here. So that's what we are still getting. And I'm sure that some of us here that would have had that encounter in our workplaces where somebody look at you and say, is this work? I better go and find something better to do. You say you're a safety officer. What safety officer? So we are still being told it's not a profession. We are being told it's just a chain to wear. It's an accessory. Some of us don't wear chains here, but you are here. So that means you are complete without your chain and your earrings. But we are still being referred to as an accessory. So when that job is very risky, they say, this job is hard though. This job is very risky. I bet we go need safety here. So you are just being brought in because you are an accessory. You are not an integral part of the job. It's still happening in Nigeria. And I said, this is in the past, and it must stay in the past. They say we are not important. Oh, you are just a tick in the box. That please, I need you, just help me tick the box. They say they need safety here. I don't know what they're saying, but just tick this thing and make a submit. Okay, make a come back. No, I don't need you. It's just a tick in the box. Do you have a safety officer? Yes. What does it do? Nothing. So we are still being regarded as a tick in the box in this part of the world until we step to where we make ourselves relevant by accepting what is happening and bringing it to life. This is the past. I'm telling you, I can't function in this environment again because this is the past. But I still have people referring to me like that in the industry when I go to the society to work, and they just look at you and they say you are not important, and they say you are just there for the purpose of what? Fulfilling the requirement. I just brought you here. You cannot say anything. A colleague of mine who is traveling, a professional colleague who has traveled to Canada now, when he got a job he did before he left, they told him the day they gave him the job, they said, we appointed you because a regulator said we need a safety person. So all we need you to do here, stay in the office but don't monitor what is happening outside. And you know the industry that is telecoms industry. So they do a lot of masting, a lot of height climbing, a lot of access rope work, but he never visited site one day. Reason, he was told day one, you are here because a regulator say we need a safety person. So just stay here so that when they come you can present yourself. This is where we are, but I say is in the past because that's not what it is again anywhere in the world. And then we are just police. I'm not some of you would have been called safety police. I'm still being called safety police. So they say you are just here to arrest people. So you are a safety police. Or they said what you are doing is just a job, it's not a career. You better go and find something better to do for yourself. This for me is a career. I'm sorry, it's not a job, because there's a difference between a job and a career. Job does not have progression, it's just job. A career has a progression. So if you ask me right now, say 10 years time, Dapson, where will you be? I can tell you, more than 15 years ago, I knew where I was going. So because somebody showed to me that this was a career, and I laid it before myself and I followed it. It's only in career you can have progression. If it's a job, you can do a job for the rest of your life. 30 years and you resign. That's what you see in some places. Oh boy, I just did work. There's no career. And they still tell us today, we are just jobs. But health and safety is a career which you need to consider very strongly if you are not yet there. But if we are already there, then if they are making a job for you, you need to raise your hand up and say, no, I'm not just here working. I'm here building a career for myself. Very important. If there's anything I'm going to leave here today, especially for those who are as young as myself, you need to let anybody who has hired you know that you are not there doing a job, you are there building a career. So when it comes to the point of just be working without anything showing you where you are going tomorrow, you have a right to call it quits. I'm sorry, because it's a career, it's not a job. Job is just part of what your career brings to the table. Next slide. I'll be rounding up in 10 minutes. I'm almost done with what I'm saying. So the present global events and trade, these are the trends that I mentioned before that have now given us opportunity to understand where we should be. We have occurred and still occur, indicating that changing must take place. Creating observable trends. So there are trends right now that we must monitor. Is shaping and changing our deliverables. So what they expect from us now as safety professional is changing, because the world has changed. Our profession has changed. We are no longer supposed to be looked at as just make sure somebody does not die. Oh, that's a beautiful goal, but there are more important parameters to measure than just stay here and watch somebody. How easy is it for you to say you're a safety officer and all you do is just stay and watch somebody? If you do that more than 2 years, 3 years, I'm sorry, you are doing a job. You have not started a career yet, because this career is bigger than a police job. Next slide. Next slide, please. So the 21st century and future of work has offered us unparalleled opportunities, but also significant challenges for us as professionals. Globalization, climate change, technology progress, demographic change are having a profound impact on the society and the labor markets that safety people must take absolute responsibility for. According to ILO, the future of work drivers are the world population is growing very seriously. 7 billion we're expecting in under 5 years or thereabout from now. Global trends in workplace incident and statistics, changes in workplace structure and system, increased campaign for renewable energy sources, automation, robotics, AI, increased internet use, virtual experience, and urge regulation. All these are going on. These are the things that show us we can't stay where we used to be. We must make progress. If you choose any of that and say because of this I need to move and step my game up a little bit, then you'll be making the right decision. Next slide. You can check that. Of course, I'm sure Wale, this slide will be available for people if they want to have it. Please let them feel free to share. They can get it by their mail or something, so that you can see the reference where I picked that discussion from. So the 21st century safety professional, this is our reality. Challenges ahead. A lot. Because it's no longer the way we used to do it. So we need to understand the new thing to do. So we have challenges all ahead of us. And you know what challenges do to you? It makes you better if you do not succumb to it. Every time there's a hurdle, I don't know if you have ever jumped a hurdle. When you jump and you come down, what do you feel? You feel very excited. And if I were you, like I always do, every challenge I just scaled gives me next to say, what is the next challenge? I'm ready for the next. Okay, what if I did not scale it and I fall? Do I stay there? I move on. So challenges are there for us. Next slide. Right, so brace up. This is the challenges that we see out there. Some career rather than the money. I can assure you, the money comes as a benefit of the career, not as the reward of the career. You can write that down. Money, salary is not the reward of your career, it's a benefit. It comes. But if you think it's your reward, then if you want me to do this, you are not paying for it, I can't do it. That's not working. Wale didn't charge anybody for what he's doing here right now. You think he has not spent money? You think he has not exhibited leadership? He has not, maybe he's even in debt right now to tell somebody the story. That's the reward of career. It comes. It's not just the money. Job only give you salary, and that's why some of you get back home with that money and you're angry at the end of the month. If I don't get paid for what I do, if this is my career, I'm excited about it and I'm looking for the next thing to do. This is what has brought some of us where we are, not just about the money. Remember, I'm not saying money is not important. I'm just saying it is what? It's a benefit of what it is. So you can go through all of these. Short-term pursuit is a long-term pursuit. So it's a career is a marathon. So we're on a marathon now. It's not short-term, it's a marathon. And of course, one of the ones that is very interesting there is a job is earning money, and it's often the main driver for the job. While for a career, it's number 4, it's passion or a sense of fulfillment. And of course, it's often your main driver. So if you're in this our industry and you want to build this career, if passion is not there, then you are just doing a job. So you will find another job. For example, they are not paying me there. Because I don't sell shoes now. You know what happened? You are looking for the next job. I have safety people that started who are selling clothes right now. No, I'm not saying selling clothes and shoes is bad. Big business. I will not be wearing suits if there are not people selling it. But once you can move from that to that to that, you are looking for a job, not a career. Because losing a job in a safety industry and you are building a career, you will not go and start looking for how to sell the next clothes. I mean, every time I look at this model, one of them is enough for me to talk for a whole day. Because I'm even still learning what they mean by this that IOSH developed. So I had to bring it here. If you are not an IOSH member, no problem. Go to their website and pick up this competency assessment that they have done and structure what model is. You will understand what we need to do to build a career here. I won't go through this, but the key 3 things I want to talk about, the technical, core, and behavior. So let's see those quickly in succession and I'll round up. Next slide, please. So what are the technical competence that you need to build? That's it. Education, training. Be here to hear what people are saying right now. That's part of the technical knowledge. Acquire knowledge, understand data analytics, and then sustainability, the new safety. The new safety has gone from traditional, it's now ESG. If you don't understand what that means, you have been left behind. Me, I'm not being left behind. Recently, I completed an ESG course, cost me $700. By the time I finished it, it's like I never understood what safety has been for 20 years. So very soon, you know what will happen in Nigeria? We'll no longer call ourselves safety professional. You'll be called ESG, because that's what makes you a business partner. People here who are safety professionals know how much other departments hate us. Do you know why they hate us? They have never seen us as business partner. What do they think we are? We stop job and we don't allow them to make profit on what we need to become business partner. Next slide. On the behavioral. Yes, so this is what you need. Are we collaborating? When you finish this meeting, how many people have you met? How many people do you know when you end this meeting? I don't go to an event and not meet somebody. It's not possible. Somebody will be in my phone by the time I'm leaving, because that person, I have to collaborate with the person. I'm not saying it's the person that needs my help. Most time, I'm the person that needs the person's help. And I go for the help. Don't worry. You need help. We all need help. So collaborate. Next slide. I round up now. I think 2 more slides and we're done. So this is ESG. Go. Don't worry. This is bigger than what this slide can talk about. So, but guys, if you're in safety right now, this is where you belong. In the next 5 years, your traditional safety has disappeared completely. So companies are no longer employing safety managers. They are looking for ESG managers. right now. So you need to learn law, governance, consultation, negotiation. You need to learn. That's the next word of health and safety. Next slide. So the future now, we must be professional, we must lead, we must be influential, we must reward, we must be doing something rewarding, empowering like what Wale is doing here, collaborating, business partnership, and having good recognition. And what did I say? I said this is a booming career path. The safety career is booming. We have not tapped the resources of safety in Nigeria. There is no competition yet. We have not started. And you can join at this stage. Next slide. All right, so frank talk. Is this for you, and are you ready? If you are new here, are you ready? If you are old like myself in safety with just a few years, are you ready to move? You know, I told you, I said, me, I must survive, and I've moved already. And I'm still moving. So if you are ready, then we are on the same course. We can move together right now. Next slide. Okay, so in my conclusion, I said the services of HSE professional will always be required. We will never be an endangered species. No way. Oh, robots are coming over to take the jobs of people. They will also take some of our jobs. But we are not endangered. We are a needed species in the economy of the world. Where have you positioned yourself? That's what makes the difference. This is because hazards and risks peculiar to different workplaces will always be there. As a matter of fact, more are coming as the work of world changes. So as these changes take place, the safety professional has to be positioned to provide solutions to employers in order to manage this risk and ensure loss prevention. So therefore, we are relevant. But what are we doing? We are evolving. If you are not evolving, you are no longer relevant. Thank you so very much. Next slide. Thank you. And that's my contact. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. A round of applause again. Thank you. What a very nice presentation that was. We will like you to pen down your questions. If you have any, maybe if the next presentation is on now, I could move around, or maybe any of our ushers could move around, take the questions that are written, so that during the question and answer time, we can take that. Yes, we will be going to the next presentation, that is the HSE professional as a business partner. Mr. Tope will be taking this for us, and is going to be virtual. He will be speaking from Cote d'Ivoire, I think. So it will be a nice time for us to really pay attention so that we can learn. The HSE professional as a business partner. Mr. Tope Phillips is the Cluster HR Director, Sub-Saharan Africa at Friesland, Campina. So please, as I've said, let's take down our questions so that we can answer that at the end of the program. Mr. Tope will be coming up, and like I told us, he is the Cluster HR Director, Sub-Saharan Africa at Friesland, Campina, an excellent business leader and an HR practitioner with many years of experience. He started his HR career in Unilever before moving to Tiger Brand, where he rose to the Group HR Director, responsible for business integration, capability development, talent management, culture and change management, business people transformation. He later moved to Cabri as Human Resource Director in Nigeria and West Africa, accountable for business transformation, people capability development and enhancement, and talent management, culture, and change management. Presently today, he's doing well for himself in the area of human resource management and also health and safety. I wish you a nice time. Let's give him a round of applause too. Let's give him a round of applause too. He's also going to spend this time for us, so we need to appreciate him. So I wish us a very nice time in this second presentation, which is the HSE professional as a business partner. Mr. Adapson mentioned that a little bit, so I think we'll get a whole lot from this too. Thank you.
don't know what's happening here, but okay. Now, good. Partner. Is the HSE safety professional currently does, right? And what should be doing going forward. Now, so what I'm saying is that for the HSE person to become a professional, it will not only be about taking precautions, it's also about taking responsibility. So the whole idea today is that for the HSE professional to become a business partner, to be take responsibility. Now, what you find today is that the current HSE professionals are only good at sharing risks. But in terms of how they can talk to the numbers of any business, they understand the business that they do and how the realities of the day-to-day work that they do impact the bottom line, that is lacking to a very large extent. Now, one of the big issues that HSE professionals concern themselves mostly about is about employee injuries, incidents, and maybe property damage that is avoidable. But how does this impact profitability is the one big question that as business people within the FMCG world and every other place is what is the big gap, a major gap in the work that the HSE professional does. And if the HSE professional can get to the point that he can speak to the numbers of what he does or she does on a daily basis and can interpret this in terms of how it impacts EBIT, in terms of how it impacts profitability in the day-to-day running of an organization, then there just will be that gap between where the HSE professional should be and where he currently is. And that's why today you will find out that oftentimes in most of the organizations that we have, even here in Nigeria, even the biggest multinationals, I beg to say that most of the people who sit in some of these roles are actually not HSE professionals, but are people who have been seconded from other roles and you can't find responsibility for them and we just say, go and look at safety. And so I am saying today that except the HLC professional that a lot of us here are, we must begin to tinker with our orientation. We must begin to think in a different way. We must understand the business. Now, one of the things that I say is, how much does the HSC professional today understand about the business that you work in? How much of business acumen do you have? What do you know? What do you know about the levers that bring profitability for the business? Most of the times you'll find, just like the last speaker said, HSE professionals are not respected because all we see is, oh, stop this production line, stop this, there are safety issues here, you cannot produce. But how about the proactive actions that does not allow you to stop a production line until safety issues arise? How do you enable or engender the people to take responsible, proactive action to prevent safety issues on the production line? So this is the problem. And so each time that you have to do some of these things, although you do it with genuine interest, but the fact is, as businessmen, we cannot relate any longer to the reason for why, to the need for why you allow this to happen before you take your decisions. Now, the big challenge. Now, how do you ensure managers and supervisors, how do you ensure that they pursue safety practices as well as productivity objectives? Now, the big gap for the HSE professional today is on what you will find the average HSE professional, what he does today is how supervisors and managers pursue safety practices. But the link that I find today is not how they meet with productivity objectives. how do you consistently follow up with good safety behavior? So how much of change management does the HSE professional carry out? Today, if you are not a good change manager, you cannot be a professional HSE. Part of the culture of the business, that even that practice of that profession also enhances business profitability. Now, I will just give you some samples of what I call safety principles in fast-moving consumer goods organizations that I have seen in my career. So one of the things that I will hear that is said is that nothing we do is worth getting hurt. So no activity or task that we perform is valuable than keeping our colleagues safe. All injuries and occupational illnesses must be prevented. We continually strive for zero incidents. That is, we believe that zero incidents is possible to achieve. But for me, again, the gap is, do we actually track these things in terms of numbers? Do we track it in terms of man-hour? Do we track it in terms of the morale of the employees and on a day-to-day basis that this helps to build? To ensure that when the morale of the employee is high because he works in a relatively safe environment, he then adds to his productivity and then adds to the profitability of the organization. Businessman in fast-moving consumer organizations is looking for. Now, everyone is responsible for safety, and this means that leaders are accountable. Working safely is a condition of employment. I don't want to go through all of this one by one, reading them out. You will see them because I'm sure you will get the slides, because I really want to quickly dash, given the time that I have, to focus majorly on what the expectations are for you to become a business partner. No, so essentially, if you look at this slide, what it's trying to talk about or speak to is the 12 essential cultural elements of safety management, which is what I believe that a lot of us currently are working at. But how does that translate to making you a business leader? How does that get you to the executive positions on the board of organizations that you work for? And that for me is the big element, and it is the missing gap that we have today with HSE professionals. Now, we have consoled ourselves as sitting outside of the boardroom. I'm not sure that to a large extent, a lot of us are saying that, look, our role is so important within an organization that it deserves to have a position, well, we're on the executive board or the management board of any organization. And that's because we have not transitioned from the current situation where we are restricted to these 12 elements of safety management to now begin to show that whatever we do, and I keep saying that whatever we do is extremely important to the survival of an organization, is extremely critical to stakeholder management, particularly those who commit their monies into the organization's continued survival into the future. Now, I now want to face my challenge for us today. This is where I'd really like to start. The HSE professional as a business partner, and I want to in an FMCG. So the first challenge that I would like to raise today is how the HSE policies or a situation where, whether it is bottom up or top down, it becomes in the organization, such that it becomes a way of life. So for example, I'm looking at situations where employees in organizations have so assumed, they have so assimilated the culture of safety that it not only pervades the work environment, but it also pervades their environment in their homes. So how do we advise and challenge the line managers to be as effective and impactful in terms of all the HSE programs. The HSE practitioner must become a coach and a mentee, and a mentor in today's FMCG world for him to become an effective business partner. So it means that we need to begin to hone our skills in terms of who is a coach. How can I become a coach within the manufacturing world? How do I become a coach? How do I become a mentor in terms of driving all the HSE policies that exist in the environment, such that I am seen as a reference point. I'm seen as a builder of culture. I'm seen as a builder of safety aspirations within the organization. And then how do we support in creating the HSE strategy? I have seen strategy documents in the life of my career, right, that are drafted for organizations' survival or business into 10 years. And honestly, only few times have I seen HSE becoming a part of sitting down with the executives and deciding what the HSE strategy will be in the business strategy of organizations. And I'm saying that until we begin to assume that role and we begin to sit properly, we begin to understand the businesses that we work in, as to developing the ability to speak to their language, the business language. If it's a brand and sales organization, how much do we understand of the brand's environment, of the sales environment within the company to work for, to be able to now develop a sales strategy to develop an HSE strategy that is important for every organization as we go forward. Now, what are the key performance indicators for an HSE professional to become a business partner? Now, first and the key one is, how do you drive change management? What are your skills around change management? And the last speaker had said it as well. Effective collaboration. How do you collaborate with the business? So most of the times what I find HSE professionals do is stopping the business from achieving its major objectives, because a lot of the things that are done are basically reactive and not proactive. So except you are able to hone your skills in terms of change management, which speaks to you building a culture in the organization that from what goal, line management from top to bottom, develop safety as a way of living. It prevents you from stopping those projects. It prevents you from stopping production lines. It prevents you from getting on the wrong side of the business each time you raise the red flag and you say, no, you have to stop this. I find businesses where safety officials are pushed to the side, because the essence of the business survivor is for you to continue to do what he wants to do. But if we then, as HSE professionals, are able to build a culture of safety within the organization, it means that we have gained that ability to become effective collaborators. So again, how do we work in organizational effectiveness, to build organizational effectiveness around safety? So if you understand how the business works, it is a lot easier for you to drive the performance of health and safety and environment in the activities and create compliance. So you become a good manager of the stakeholders as well. And then you allow for effective resource optimization. If you are able to acquire all of these skills and you're able to put them in practice, then that's how you can then, to a large extent, build your partnership skills, both with internal and external stakeholders, and then you get the recognition that you need in every organization that you work for. So I would say that it is important that as an HSE professional, you look at this slide and say, what is missing for me in my practice today? How much of the business do I understand? What does this business do? And how does my job impute, impact, build this organization? How proactive am I in terms of the HSE policies and activities that I design? And how much collaboration do I involve myself with in building that stakeholder management? One sorry to say this, but it's the truth, in my career with HSE practitioners, is their inability to build stakeholder management. You know, and to build stakeholder management, it means that you have to be able to wear the shoes of your stakeholders and understand exactly what their needs are. And when you understand what their needs are, you are able to impact them positively. So when you talk about developing safety culture in an FMCG business, right, you have to be able to help senior management to demonstrate commitment. You have to build employee engagement such that it becomes a part and parcel of the employee in terms of what they do. And this will involve you making policies, practices that help to change behavior. I keep speaking to culture, I keep speaking to change management, because it's one key area that you will require going forward. The other thing is accountability for execution of safety activities. Oftentimes what I find is delegation and inability to accept responsibility for a lot of these safety activities. When we train people, when we expect people to follow policies, how much of hand-holding do we do? How many times as HSE practitioners do we think that it's our responsibility to see that this is in practice? You know, oftentimes, what I have seen in my career, in all the multinationals that I've worked with, and I have worked with quite some in Nigeria, about 6 or 7 now, what I find is that HSE practitioners do not take accountability for the execution of these safety activities. What I find is the approach where we turn ourselves to become policemen, right? Rather than building a culture, rather than building a safety as a way of life within the industries of companies that we work with. How positive and flexible are we? How many times do we celebrate consistency in terms of new behaviors for people who adapt, who are early adapters for this culture of safety? How many times do we celebrate successes? And again, I will not stop repeating the fact that change management is extremely critical for the success of an HSE practitioner to become a business partner. So to achieve this, again, I'd like to emphasize here, to achieve this, first is the HSE values or the company values must include the HSE strategy. And then those company values must support safety as an important objective. And this is where, like I said, I fault a lot of us because we have not brought ourselves to the place of importance that when you see the values of most organizations, oftentimes there is no reflection of the fact, even where they take safety very serious, there's no reflection of the fact that HSE has played a role. Only few organizations would, in their value, say food safety, for example, if they're a manufacturing organization that is into food, only few will say food safety is part of our values. We will make sure that every brand of ours that gets to the consumer is safe, is delivered safely, and is safe and fit for the consumer to take. How much of our footprints as practitioners are expressed in the values of most organizations that we work for? What impact do we play in terms of rewarding and recognizing safe practices? We leave that to HR practitioners to do. What is our influence? What is our collaboration in terms of ensuring that the organizations that we work for actually reward and recognize people who have adapted safe practices in their organization? And so if we are not part of this, if we are not deliberate, and that's the word I'd like to use, about how we collaborate with the various departments or units or teams that are in the organizations that we work for, then we are not able to show how important we are. So I'm looking forward to HSE practitioners who will sit on the table with HR professionals and say, we want to develop a safety culture. We want safety, health, and good environment practices to be part of what is included, whether in our handbook, whether in the policies and values of the organization, and we want to be able to see what exactly are those things that the company is going to lay out for those who do are we involved in production or manufacturing processes to the point that we are able to embed safety practices in some of the things that we do? How many of the goals, and when I mean goals, I'm talking about the objectives of individuals, of employees in organizations, have safety as one particular point that the organization is going to be driving, and we will have conversations with all employees at the end of the month. So I'm still waiting. Apart from it being the objectives of the HSE professional, when will it come to life that we will be playing our role so well as practitioners that we can then say to the organization, please, year on year, health and safety practices will be part of the objectives for performance for 2022, 2023, for which we are going to be asking people, we're going to be judging people in terms of their performance at the end of the year. And so when line managers sit every year to have, or whether quarterly or half yearly or at the year end, to discuss performance objectives, one of the key objectives that will be on every which will be a KPI for every employee, will be health and safety. And that cannot happen until we bring ourselves to the table, until we can describe in terms of naira and kobo, dollars, pounds, how much that impacts the bottom line, how much that impacts EBIT, how much that impacts profitability. What is our understanding of profitability for the organizations that we work for? What's our understanding of EBIT? Do we speak business language? Those are key questions that we need to begin to ask ourselves as professionals in this day. Do we speak the business language that we work for? If I work for MTN, what is the business language? If I work for Unilever, what is the business language? And it's only when we understand the business language, that is when we can become great stakeholder managers. That's when we can collaborate. Because then, the people that we partner with understand that we speak their own language. But for me, what I see today is that there's a great divide, there's a huge valley, there's a big gap between what HSE objectives are and what the company objectives are. I dare say today, to be very honest, that organizations that have senior people, and like the last speaker spoke to, that have senior people as HSE professionals in their organization, is because these are mandatory requirements. And so they just have some at the point of recognition that they actually deserve. So what should the HSE do to become a business partner? Apart from the fact that you are committed to safety yourself, is that you communicate and demonstrate your knowledge of safety to everyone. Is that you engage employees in safety through listening to employee ideas. So oftentimes, again, what I see is a situation where, to a very large extent, the policies that we design to the environment where we work. And then so you create, there then will come a disconnect between the policies that we are trying to lay on the business and the people who will implement it. And so if we become good listeners, if we speak to the business, if we go within the business, I am expecting HSE professionals who work in a manufacturing organization to understand the manufacturing processes, to understand the outcomes of everyday work in order to be able to lay safety policies on it. But what I find today is the other way. So you own safety in your area of responsibility. Yeah, you must have a regular presence. HSE professionals must be visible in the organization, and visibility means not physical presence, but it means the thought process that you bring to the job. Visibility in the organization means the impact that you create from your work. I am expecting a situation where senior leadership will not take business decisions without having the HSE professional in the room to say, we are building a factory, we are about to establish a new sales territory. Can you tell us what the safety implications are? Can you let us understand what the huge issues will be before we take this final decision? So HSE professionals need new visibility, and visibility will only come from great stakeholder management. It will only come from your involvement in the business. It will come from your better understanding in the business. It will come from your better aspiration not to have one-cap-fits-all policies for all organizations, because organizations will differ in terms of their speech, in terms of their business language from one to the other. Now, what is the skill required? What are the skills required to become a great business partner? One, business acumen. I have talked about it. You must understand the business. You must understand the business. If you work for a soap manufacturing business, the safety issues in the soap manufacturing business is way different from the safety issues in the food manufacturing business or in the communication business. The outlay are different. So you cannot translate a one-cap-fits-all. So what I expect is HSE professionals who understand their business in and out. If I work in an organization that has a huge sales force, huge number of people who are in the field, whether in Kaduna, in Zaria, this is also a huge gap today. For some of us who work in fast-moving consumer organizations, you will find that HSE presence is only limited into the factories. Their understanding of safety health practices on the field is extremely limited. I don't want to talk about their impact. How much of the total business do you drive in terms of which comes only from your understanding of the business? So business acumen is extremely important. Collaboration, I don't want to repeat that. I can't repeat it my mother has said. Collaboration will come from your effective stakeholder management practices, right? What is your influence? How much can you influence others? Change management is key. What is your ability to negotiate the importance of your role to business profitability? So your ability to influence, your ability to do what you need to do via change management is key. Instilling trust. Again, this is the one major problem that I've had in my career with HSE people. Sometimes the way we do our job makes people feel that we do not understand the business needs. And so, if you have a great understanding of the business and you partner well with your stakeholders, they know that you understand what they do. The production manager has a volume target. He has a target that he needs to achieve on a daily or a monthly or a weekly basis. How much does he know or does he feel that you are a part of helping him to achieve that? And until he knows that, you cannot build that trust that is required. And that is where I think it's very important for an HSE person to fill the gap. How do you act with speed? How decisive are you? How much time do you spend to listen to your stakeholders? How many times do you sit with them, to listen to them, to understand what they go through, and then to propose solutions that make them trust you? How do you measure and improve? But importantly is my colleagues, HSE practitioners, you must start becoming a coach. You must start becoming a mentor. You must be that mentor that your stakeholders run to say, hey, guide me. What do you think I should do? How do I deliver my objectives? How do I achieve this? That is one big role that is missing today in the practice of HSE practitioners that I see. Making that connection. How do you make that connection, both human and organizational performance? How do you make that connection to it? If the company wants to deliver 1,000 tons, if the company wants to deliver profitability of X amount, how do you sit down to understand what your role is? How do you build that bridge to ensuring that the company delivers? I spoke to aspirations and targets of production managers. How do you build that connection? How do you build that great collaboration that the other party feels that each time he sees you around, he's not even going to wait, he's going to call you every time. How do you build that connection? And it's very, very important. So we need to reset the minds of employees to work safely. We need to build that great collaboration skills in terms of, and how do we do that? For us to listen very, very well, peer-to-peer meetings, daily safety observations. We have to have lead tours with leaders, managers, safety meetings, and all other meetings, roundtable meetings. I remember that 2 months ago, I called one of my colleagues in safety, said, look, how many times do you attend the sales meeting? And it wasn't, of course, he was looking at, I said, sorry, there's a lot of opportunity for you, for the business, if you understand what the salesmen, particularly in the situation of Nigeria today, particularly with the security or whatever that we have, if you understand what they go through, and then you help us to maintain a safe environment and safety culture within the salesmen and the sales force. So how do you do that? How do you build this human and organization connection? It's very important. Lastly, as I end this presentation this morning, my question to you is, when you sit down today, having listened to the first presenter before me, I must say I'm really encouraged by the fact that he has come out honestly to tell you a lot of things and very transparent in the conclusions that he has made. I want you to ask yourself, are you reactive? Are you dependent? Is there interdependence that has been created? Or, are you independent? Or, lastly, is there interdependence that has been created? Do you help others to conform? And I use the word help. Are you others' keeper, which means that you are helping them to achieve their targets within the safety rules? Your job is not seen as hindrance. You are not there to play the big, and forgive me to use this, the big role of the police. Oh, don't do this, stop this. You know, I say this jokingly. It's only in Nigeria that I find that people remove road signs and allow you to commit the offense, and then they come and arrest you. But when you are doing your work thoroughly, you will find that the number of times that you have to stop production lines, the number of times that you have to issue stop orders will reduce, because you will have built conformity. People already know and accept it as part of the culture, and they will be doing more of adherence. And then, do you care for others? And then, do you have organizational pride? So I leave this to you this afternoon as I end this presentation, and I say thank you to the organizers of this program for allowing me to share my thoughts. And when you do this, 100% results, there will be safety for our people and products. We're talking more of zero defects. There will be zero losses, because people are committed to the business journey and our values. There will be increased customer and stakeholder value that is built. And I can't say it more than this. Workplace life safety is also very, very critical. Thank you very much, and good morning once again. Sorry for all the small breaches. I'm speaking out of Lagos because I'm not in Lagos. I'm doing this online. Thank you very much again, and God bless you all. If there are questions, I'll be willing to take them now.
Thank you. A round of applause for him. Thank you, our speaker, Mr. Tokwe Phillips. We are very delighted that you could create time out of your busy schedule to attend to us. Because it's outside the country and it's done justice to that. We are very happy. Now we are going to have a short break, networking break. You can move around. You can see the ambience of the environment. Okay. Oh, okay. A minute. are going to have time to relax and stretch ourselves and see the ambience of the environment. We take pictures. You know, the positive side of this break is that we can also use this time to network, talk to our friends, ask your friend, what are they doing? How can you call me? And how can you assist? Then we have our stand. You can go to our stand and take a selfie, then send it to your friends so that you can propagate what is happening here. And of course, MTC will be getting known. So we can move around now. Thank you so much. By 12 o'clock, we will start the panel discussion. You can move around. Thank you so much. Go to our stand, check the other stand, and see what we have there. Take pictures, send to your friends, and so that they will know what we are doing here. And if you also want the link to this program, the Zoom link, you can meet us afterward. We will send it. Then you can send it to whoever you want to. Thank you so much. like 5 minutes more, so you can still move around and exercise your legs. And go to our stand and see what is happening there. You can see the practical aspect of what we are doing now. So it's good you are there. Please, we can all come together now. Thank you. Please, if you are for the program, let's come in. Please, if you are for the program, let's come in, please. The hall is still empty. Please, let's come in. Those still taking selfie, please come in. Okay. Thank you. We are now going to the panel discussion, and here with me we have the moderator, then the panelists. The moderator is no other person than Mr. Jasin Kamali. Is he in the house? Okay, please, can you please come up, sir? Let's give him a round of applause. You are welcome. Jasin Kamali is a chartered health and safety practitioner with about a decade of experience in the quality, health, safety, security, and environmental field across the oil and gas manufacturing subsector. He's passionate about systematically leading change and improving business and organizational performance by applying the principles of risk management, management systems, loss prevention, and sustainability. An award-winning EHS manager, he led EHS culture transformational changes in one of the largest indigenous pharmaceutical manufacturing companies in West Africa and one of the leading agribusiness companies in Africa. He was recently elected as a council member of IOSH Council. Can we give him a round of applause? You are welcome, sir. The panelists, we have here number one, Mr. James Adenuga. Is the group lead, occupational safety and health at Dangote Group. Is he in the house? Okay. Okay, maybe when he's seated, we'll call him. Okay. Okay. Mr. James Adenuga, you can come to the stage, sir. You are welcome. Can we give him a round of applause? James holds a master's degree in occupational health and safety management from the University of Portsmouth, United Kingdom. He is a chartered OH&S practitioner with the Institution of Occupational Health and Safety and Health. At Dangote Group, provides strategic and operational H&S support to the construction of a world-class complex comprising the largest refinery on a single train in the world and petrochemical plant based in Africa. Supports cement manufacturing plants spread across the African region and other manufacturing business units within the conglomerate. James brings a world of experience, having spent the majority of his career in high risk as well as large blue chip organizations in oil and gas, manufacturing, engineering, power.
You are welcome. Please, a round of applause again. On the list again, we have Cynthia Ozubo. Is she in the house? Okay, you are welcome. A round of applause for her. You're welcome. Cynthia Ozubo is Chartered Health and Safety Practitioner. Ozobu, okay, good. Ozobu, good. Good. Certified Management System Auditor. She's Occupational Health and Hygiene Specialist. She has an international certified management system auditor, as I've said, and she's a trainer. She's a member of International Institute of Risk and Safety Management in the United Kingdom. Is also British Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, chartered member of IOSH, and pioneer national treasurer for IOSH West Africa branch. A lot of applause here. Please, can you just give her a round of applause? She's done well for herself and for the nation at large. Thank you. Gogumari is not here with us, but we have our in-house person. We've had him, and we also want to hear more of him. It's no other person than Dapsy. You are welcome to the stage, sir. I will not need to introduce him. You have had him. Please, a round of applause for him. We had a nice presentation with him, and I think the country is blessed with cerebral people like him. You are highly welcome, sir. Then the last on the list, we have Dr. Salau Idris Adetola. He's the National HSE Manager for 7UP. Please, can you give him a round of applause? Dr. Idris Salau, currently the head of safety for 7UP Berkeley Company Limited, is a Master of Science degree holder in Occupational Health and Safety from the Institute of Petroleum Studies. He graduated with a distinction and as the best male graduating student in the set of 2012-2013. He has worked with various world-class multicultural and multinational FMCG organizations like PZ and a whole lot. He's currently the SHE manager for 7UP. You're welcome, and we're believing that we're going to have a nice time with you. So I'll hand over to the moderator now. With this session will be coming to an end at exactly 12:45. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I indeed consider myself to be honored to be moderating this session in the midst of top-notch, seasoned health and safety and distinguished health and safety professionals across different industries. And just to reiterate again, the title of the panel discussion or topic is the criteria for professional excellence in a VUCA world. And VUCA is just an acronym for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So welcome once again, Idris Salau. Welcome once again, James Adenuga. Welcome, Cynthia Ozobu. Welcome, Ogadapsin. We really enjoyed your presentation in the first part. So together, we will be doing justice to this topic. And apparently what has necessitated this topic is the changes in the future, in the world of work. These changes has actually brought a need for new skill sets. It's a higher level of leadership engagement. It's also, we've seen some of these changes in the introduction of artificial intelligence, data analytics, robotics, and so on and so forth. So how can health and safety professionals how can we respond to this change in this VUCA world? So, but I'd like to throw this question open to our panelists. Professional excellence, what's your perspective about that, professional excellence? Maybe I'll start with Mr. James. Mr. James.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. It's okay. Thank you. Well, first, thanks for having me here, and really delighted to be part of this high power. It's very hot here. You guys wouldn't feel it. It's all heat. So, professional excellence. I think we are now at that. No apologies or appreciation to the VUCA as it's described. Amazingly, the VUCA thing dates way back in the 90s, actually, but it then resurfaced with the pandemic. And for us in what we do, and especially how Dapo's presentation earlier about us begin to think of how we reclassify what we do. Those special agents, they get to a point as a special agent, you probably watch James Bond and all. I'm not publicizing James Bond, but you get to a point where you declassify the personality of the role. So professional excellence for us is rising to the occasion of what the nature of circumstantial evidence is thrown towards us. And I mean, there's a lot to talk about, but I'm mindful of time. I think for us in the industry and what we do, the very first thing that the pandemic threw towards us is preparedness to respond. Preparedness to respond. So, because it's going to be demanded, it's not that maybe, it's not likely, it's going to be demanded, professional excellence on us as professionals. The question I will ask each and every person is, how ready are you? How prepared are you? Your being ready will then put you in the state of being able to respond appropriately. But you can't do that if you're not ready. Somebody said something sometime in the course of the week, not necessarily health and safety, but also helps strategic planning. In that we always say, it's for whatever it is for the person that is prepared. All right. But suppose that thing comes and the person is not prepared. All right. So we're looking for opportunities. Yeah, opportunities, but it happens and the person, so how sad will it be? So we're not beating too much around the bush. First, in visualizing professional excellence in the VUCA dimension or space, it's a call for each and every person to assess, how ready am I? How prepared am I? So I know where can I fit in when the call comes. When somebody gives a call or send a message a LinkedIn, and then because you're not prepared, you're not ready. So I think for me that's the first one. There's quite a lot of things I'm sure most of my other colleagues would touch on. But the first thing is to assess that question. How prepared are we? Thank you.
Great response there, James. I put our minds back to James Bond, the 007. And, one thing I can pick from what he said is, you need to be one step ahead. So professional excellence in the context of the VUCA world is you need to be proactive and be prepared so that you can flow with the change. Very good point there, James. Now, I'd like to come over to my friend Idris Salau. Now, please, can you share with us from your, because one significant thing James made mention of was COVID-19. So, how has COVID-19, how has it affected the way
in this business context is looking at how external factors are actually changing the landscape. You know, the way we used to do things, the way we know it to be the routine, is now becoming 10 years back, and it's becoming so obsolete very fast. And interestingly, it's not just going to be affecting manufacturing alone. We've seen instances, and of course, it's not just going to be limited to COVID-19. I know whenever we mention VUCA nowadays, the person that comes to mind is COVID-19. The truth is, you look up north, security issues is also making the environment, the business landscape extremely volatile. I'll give you a case in point. We had a truck that was to go to Kaduna, I think at some point, and for a space of about 2.5 to 3 days, we were unable to maintain communication, with the team. Why is this so? Of course, based on the old insecurity issues, they have to put up a network, and you can imagine the kind of strain this will put on a normal supply chain network. So now it's not just about COVID-19. There's a whole lot happening that demands us as professionals to be extremely proactive. I can also give a case in point, NSAS. That's also another one that happened, much more recently. And all this will keep happening, the most important thing, just as my senior colleague had mentioned, professional excellence is a key part, in this context. We need to be extremely proactive. We need to be able to preempt, trends and be able to put ourselves ahead of it. And that's, of course, that's when we'll be able to say we are actual business partners, just as we had learned, earlier on. Now, how have we navigated some of these challenges? I was discussing with Ogadap Singh just a few moments ago. When things like this happen, when you have these, external factors changing our landscape, it's either you flow with the trend, you get ahead of the flow, and you swim with the tide, or what happens, you get drawn into it and you sink. So in as much as there's a vocal environment and businesses are sinking, I can assure you a lot of businesses are also thriving. In fact, they are thriving at the rate you cannot imagine. I don't want to go into the business case for 7-Up, but I can tell you 7-Up took advantage of the old dynamic, of the old disruption. Yeah? 7-Up took a whole advantage of it, and there's a whole lot that's still going to come up, that we are still, ahead of the old curve. But then, I'll leave that. But the most important thing here is that we need to get ahead of the trend. We need to be able to see it. I think COVID came up, I think about February when it became kind of prominent, in Nigeria. But then it's been happening elsewhere. A whole lot of us did not even think to actually research to say, oh, is there a likelihood that this thing is going to hit us? If it does hit us, how prepared are we to manage, the impact? Not until it came on board, and of course, nose mask became the most essential item, in the country. And so the whole lot. But the most important thing here is that we need to get ahead of the curve. We need to actually be able to see the mega trends. We need to be proactive and get ahead of it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Allow. So one thing I can pick from what he said is the whole pandemic has presented risk and opportunities. So though it may have impacted some businesses negatively, but also there have been opportunities too. And also the HSE professional too has to also see it in that vein too. What are the risks or what are the opportunities for the profession coming out of with the COVID-19? So that's a fine one. Now I want us to just look backwards a bit. There's someone on this panel who's an arch veteran. I think in 2016 when ILO had the country profile, he was there, Mr. Dapson. So I'd like to come to you, Mr. Dapson. I know when they said it was hot here, he said it's cooler here. So I'm sure you do justice to this. So from experience, how has the profession, how has it evolved, over the past 15 to 20 years, and reflecting on that and looking at where we are now, and then taking into context, our local environment. I know you made mentions, you talked about it during your presentation. It would be good to also, elaborate on it again.
All right.
Okay, thank you so very much again. It's not hot here, don't worry. I've got somebody that's making it cool here, so don't worry. All right. I think if you take a deep dive to what has happened to us, I'm very proud to say I couldn't have been a safety professional in a better time than we have right now. Some of us that started earlier, if you compare it to what you're doing now, you just tell yourself, why did you come? You know, sometimes you can come before your time, and sometimes it's not always good when you come before your time. I love football. And there was time somebody was analyzing football and was talking about Messi and Ronaldo. And then I was still joking about that, and I had a Nigerian player, JJ Okocha, for instance, or something that said, maybe he should have not come when he came. Because the time he came, he was so good, but there's not so much, you know, effort or so much profiling of that industry. I think this is a good time. 10, 15 years ago, some of us were not proud to say what we do. We could not even mention to anybody. Personally, it took me almost 4 years before people started understanding what I do. And I also accepted that label by hiding what I do. And they term me or somebody that had no job. But when I come into such meeting and I see them saying I don't have a job, I know I was earning more than them. And that was a fact. I was earning more than them, but yet they thought I had no job. So when I say I'm a safety officer, I see people, you know, shoving their legs saying, just tell us you don't have a job, they will look for a job for you. That's how silent we were. We were not known. We didn't know what we were doing. We were not recognized. We were not spoken to. I mean, look at people today that are not just saying I'm a safety person, but in the decision-making of organization. And yet they got there from the platform of health and safety. It means we have come to the table. And we must come. I think professional excellence here is that we have to do everything to come to the table. I can no longer just sit there and they think I'm an embellishment. Because this is the time they are recognizing that you can sit on the table. But your excellence as a professional now is, what does it take to sit on the table? If you don't know it, you are going to be under the table. And there are basic things that we need to know to sit on the table. I raised a question some time ago, some of us will remember, in a webinar. And I said, when will safety professionals start becoming the CEO and MDs of conglomerate? Can you remember that question when we did the webinar? When will James be the CEO of Dangote? When will Jason be the CEO of Wactor that is working in? When will Idris become the MD of SB? You know, SBC. This is when we come to the table and you can get there. So that's where we are right now. It's not where we were 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. But we have come to the table. And you've got to be on the table. But professional excellence means we need to dig deep. And I think that's what we're talking about now. What should we do to sit on the table? And that's, you must search for it. They are already sitting on the table in other part of the climb. So now we need to start asking, how did they get to that table? I can no longer say, and I was joking with it now, I no longer say safety is first. Simple thing. I no longer say, you can't catch me saying safety first. It's no longer relevant. It's in the old. When you say safety first right now, you are lying to yourself. James, is safety first in your organization? It's no longer. But that's what we were taught. So now, I tell people safety is a value, it's not the first. And with that, they bring me to the table to discuss. That's where we are right now. And I think it's a beautiful time for anybody to be in safety. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Now, I think, so his message is quite straightforward, that it's time for the USH professionals to be more influential when it comes to strategy, when it comes to business planning. We want to be there where decisions are made at executive level. We want to be C-suite. So I think that makes sense. We have someone on the panel who is a strong voice for women in the occupational health and safety professional. Okay, so I was privileged to listen to one of our sessions that was last 2 weeks on professional development. And I'd like to, I'd like to take my question from there. Now, in the light of the panel topic, criteria for professional excellence in a VUCA world. Okay, now I'd like to ask Cynthia your opinion. Now, what are some skills, what are some OSH in terms of knowledge that health and safety professionals, should be looking towards with respect to adapting to the VUCA world, in your own opinion?
All right, thank you very much again, Kamalo, for that question. He said something that I'm the voice for the women. All right, okay, so for me, this topic is when I looked at it, I was like, this is the best time to discuss this, because there is an arm of health and safety and environment that is not being really touched. Like Dapson said that 15, 20 years ago, we were talking about safety first. We were ensuring that people don't bleed, fall down from ladder and stuff like that. COVID came upon us. There is a little flip on the H part of that health, safety, and environment. And when you asked me about the skill I feel an OSH professional need to get, for me, OSH profession is so much. It's just about you identifying what's my strength, what do I have interest in, what do you think I need to do in order to get that interest into the limelight. So what am I saying? Before now, you can't go to any CEO and tell the CEO, the noise is in the factory and it might cause blah, 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 blah. And he'll ask you, has anybody gone deaf? Nobody has gone deaf. Please get back to work. But the point is that COVID has brought to limelight that there is a great area that we've not actually explored or tapped the full potential, right? So for me, I encourage every OSH professional to, first of all, because it's a personal journey. It's a personal thing, because I will not say that you will have all the skills. That's not what I'm saying, because if you want to sit by the professional excellence, you must carve a niche for yourself and be good at what you do. And that's what professional excellence is. One, you must think about what is my interest, what are my strengths. Then you look for a way to go and get what you want. Of course, working with mentors, working with senior colleagues in order to help you get there. A lot of us that are in OSH profession 10, 15 years ago, I know most people didn't start from the medical background, for instance. So if we look at our technical competencies when we do our risk assessment, for instance, nobody captures anything on the health risk but just a medical emergency. And if you, as an auditor as well, if you audit a company, look at their risk assessment, for instance, most people have not even done a drill outside of the fire drill, right? So there is a lot of skills that are untapped. OSH profession is yet quite at its old, but it has a lot of skills to be tapped. But for you to excel, you must, of your own self, ask yourself, what is my interest? What are my skills, or what are my strengths, in order to know what are the skills I need to carve a niche for a particular area and be good in it. You talk of dangerous goods, for instance. Some people are also professionals in that, or they are good in that area. So for every OSH professional, for you to identify the skill you need, because if you want to focus more on the health, there are skills you need to get. If you want to look at the process safety, there are skills to that. If you want to look at the safety area, there are also skills to that. And now, organizations are merging sustainability into HSE. That's where it makes sense. That's the thing that gives you an edge to make justification for any intervention you may be driving. You can use your sustainability report, for instance. So, I mean, before now, there was a talk on the ESG skill as well, governance also coming into health and safety as well. So, every person have to determine for him or herself, what do I have interest in? Because it's the passion that will drive your purpose. You must have passion for that purpose that has been given to you as an USH profession. And as women, I crave that you also understand that what we ask for is balance and stability, right? We also have an additional responsibility as women, right? But having a plan, knowing where you're going, and having strategies in order to drive you towards that area will help you as an USH professional to have a balance between your work, your career, and of course the home. Thank you very much.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Cynthia. I think you've actually highlighted key points that health and safety professionals should look towards. I'll just take two. We should think more, or we should think again about the health sector of the HSE. So looking at it from how James has put it, professional excellence, being prepared. So I think we should ask ourselves, when are we going to have the next pandemic? And how ready are we going to be in terms of the skill set for that? Okay, and she also spoke about ESG. Great. Now, just to add to that, some of us here, not me though, were at a conference sometime in 2017 or 2018. I was in Singapore by INSPO. Now, INSPO means the International Network for Safety and Health Professional Organizations. On that platform, there's IOSH, ASSP, and so on and so forth. And then they came up with a framework, a capability framework. So I want to throw that open. You could check that out. They have a framework for health and safety professionals, the USH knowledge, body of knowledge, as well as the USH skills. Okay, so that can help you appreciate the criteria for professional excellence too. And then IOSH also built on that by developing the competency framework, which Mr. Dakbo highlighted during his presentation. And so that brings me to my question. What about rounding up the session? Now, one of the skills on that wheel is leadership. And looking at the title of this session, HSE Leadership and Career Fair. So I want to throw it, I guess this will be more like the question to round up. So I'll start with you, Mr. Salau. What are some leadership traits? What are some leadership traits that health and safety professionals should look towards grooming if they want to adapt to the VUCA world?
Thank you very much again, Jason. So when it comes to leadership, and of course, you cannot necessarily separate this from professional excellence, right? And for you to be a professional that is not just saying, especially in the business context, as a cost center, or as the guy that whenever he shows up, is here with a requisition, or he just needs to buy this, he needs to buy that. If I look at my contest, and I think one of the direction I tend to go with my team is think as a business leader in everything that we do. You need to put on that cap of, this is my business. And say, for example, you come to me and we do an assessment and we realize that the process area is hot. As far as it is not immediately injurious to life, the first thing I would say is give me data. Go check. Put a thermometer there. In the last 3 days, in the last 1 week, what has been the temperature in the area? What has been the relative humidity? I'm just giving you an example now. I will not just barge into the GM's office and say, oh, I need an AC here, I need an AC there. I will generate some data, right? Because at the end of the day, it's by the time you throw out the data and I say, oh, in the last 3 weeks, based on these temperature changes, there have been issues with fatigue, and of course, this fatigue has resulted in poor quality of the mixing, which have made the business lose a number of concentrates. You've lost this, you've lost that. Before you finish that presentation, I can assure you the GM already is not comfortable in the seat anymore, right? He's already calling in the engineering manager, he's calling this, calling that, and he has already taken over the whole issue. You are not even saying this is what I need. He's immediately taking it over. Why is this so? Of course, you are not being emotional, and I think that's one of the very key things that we need to take note of. As a safety professional, it's always very easy for us to get into that context of emotional, we can't get emotional. In anything that we do, we need to back it up with data, very good data. And by the time you throw this open, of course, you don't even need to ask for anything. It's very, very clear.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much. So, it says we have to wear the cap of the business leader and be data-driven in our decisions, as well as emotional intelligent. Thank you very much, Idris. Now, I'd also want you to make a comment on that too. James, the leader, apparently.
It's an interesting one because the way I look at leadership and leader is not so much of the designation or the job title leader or someone that has a manager or director against his or her name. Is actually living, being an influence in whatever sphere our sphere of influence is. So in the back to the topic in the vocal world, there will be an expectation therefore to demonstrate leadership, walking away from the talking and the saying to really putting things to action, putting our money where our mouth is. And how else would we do that other than being first exemplary? And when I say that, it means doing that and also recognizing or identifying people who do that across the rank and file. So if you find someone who is the tea girl, who exudes that, recognize that, so you reinforce that kind of trait. And also if somebody who is very high up there does that for whatever reason they do it, it's a very good endorsement coming from our community that, well done. I mean, I saw something recently, one of our very senior people, I don't know why she did what she did, and then she just sent it to me and copied me and copied a few other people. All I said in acknowledgement is to thank her, for doing that, but more than what she did was for being exemplifying leadership as a very senior person in that neck of the woods. So that's one thing. Then the second thing in the vocal world is communication. One of the things you find that is a problem is that we tend to be saying so much, but we're saying very little. All right. So what will really help us as we evolve, as our profession is really evolving and very fast, is how we're able to develop listening. So the communication first starts with active listening, because if you are all about wanting to say, yes, we need to be on the table, I agree 100%, but we need to begin to listen. What do they say at the table? What are the discussions at the table like? So when it gets to, again, sorry, I am branding this preparedness thing. I can spend 4 hours talking about this preparedness from many angles. Then I'm ready to be able to lend my voice, because I'm coming from a point of adding value to that system, in that I have understood, back to what he's saying about putting on the hearts of those guys who's, to be honest with you, you don't blame them. It's all about that. And I don't blame them for that. But if they can see value and we communicate, that we listen, yeah, we active listening, not being too quick to wanting to speak, send email, whatever, or telephone, SMS, all those things. Now we have Instagram, all the social media. No, calm down from all those things. Calm down, just listen first, what's going on? What's the trend? What's it looking like? And then you can be able to make a meaningful contribution that can add value. I like to stop to give my other colleagues. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Well said. Well said. So effective communication and trying to make sense from the noise, as well as being compassionate. Great point. Now, last two comments. Please, I'd like to just give us closing comments. What advice would you like to give to the early career or mid-career professionals who find themselves in a vocal world now? Just one or 2 points. I'll start with you, Mr. Dakpo. Just briefly, more like a summary comment.
All right. Thank you very much once again. I think we can discuss this for a whole day. But I think for every one of us here, one of the things I was trying to write down now is to be a leader in this particular period that we have so many volatility and all of that. We need to first step out of being stereotypical in everything we do. So many of us have accepted some stereotypes that this is what safety people do. Flexibility does not mean no compliance. So, if you want to achieve success where you find yourself now, first tell yourself it's a dynamic word that brings flexibility. And what that means is you can't stick to your guns and say it is either this way or nothing else. That's how I was taught safety. Do it my way or no way. But if you go back to what we actually taught technically, and I'll round up with that, in the hierarchy of control, you will find out that you have options. It's not just stop. There are many options. So if you are a stop and no work, then I think you need to go get a police job and not a safety job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, last comment from you, Cynthia.
The last one for me is the change, the constant thing, right? We are talking about COVID now. Change will constantly be something faced with. Organizations will also face changes in different categories, be it their mission, strategy, operational, or technological change. And when these changes happen, we will also be ready to adapt that change, right? And for you to be able to adapt to that change, you must be proactive to make a plan. You must be futuristic. You must have that eye to see into 2-3 years. And then look at the gap. And how do you look at the gap? Look at your organization. What do they want? What is the problem there? What is the solution they are looking for? Can I get 1, 2, 3 skills and experience to add to that in order to solve that problem? Because if you go to work every day and you are not able to solve the problem that come up or face the organization, I will be honest with you, you will be phased out. So I want to encourage you all, look for the problem in the organization, align it with what you're doing, and find a way in order to solve that problem. Even if there is no problem in your organization, is your organization probably what your organization is doing, manufacturing, and another manufacturing company has that problem. Start making plan on how to solve that for your organization, because it's going to resurface in your own organization. Just give it time. And if you don't have the skill to address that problem, make a plan to get that skill. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I'd like to thank our distinguished panelists for doing justice to the panel topic, HSE criteria for professional excellence in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. I know we can go on for another 1 hour, but we would like to draw the curtain here, and thank you all. Thank you very much.
A round of applause for them again. They've done justice to the discourse. Like I announced earlier, if you have any question, you can just write it out, give it to any of the ushers so that we can attend to that. Very soon we'll be going to the next program. But I would like to ask our expert in the house. I'm not an expert in HSE. Can we say that COVID-19 has given prominence to HSE practice? A whole lot? Okay, so thank you. I'm also learning. I wish that we can have this training for 2 days, 3 days, so that all these are experts. They will keep talking and talking until we get there. But they've done a very good job. We want to appreciate them for that. We'll be going to Larry's presentation, and that's Mr. Larry Wilson. He's the co-CEO at Safe Start International. He will be presenting from the United Kingdom. It's going to be virtual, so we are all to listen. Larry Wilson has been a behavior-based safety consultant for over 25 years. He has worked with over 2,500 companies in Canada, in the United States, in Mexico, in South America, the Pacific, major part of Europe. He's also the author of Safe Start, an advanced safety awareness program currently being used by over 2 million people in 50 countries worldwide and 30 languages. Let's give this man a round of applause. Obviously, part of what we are also leveraging on today will be part of his work. His idea and concept have shifted perspectives for performance and injury prevention at over 4,000 companies around the world. So we have Mr. Larry Wilson. He'll be presenting on integrating the human element as a key innovation to deliver sustained improvement in health and safety culture and performance. I am very sure we have a whole lot to learn from this.
To disable the screen sharing. Olawale, can you hear me? Oh, good. Can you enable the screen sharing? It's disabled. Yeah, host disabled participant screen sharing. All right, are we, can I do it? Sorry, everybody. Okay, hopefully you can see this screen. Is there anybody there that could give me a thumbs up or let me know whether you can see the screen or not? I won't be able to see anybody. could, I suppose. Is anybody there? Hello? All right. Okay. All right. You can see the screen? Okay. These are always a bit nervy, everybody, the webinars where you don't know whether everybody can see or hear you. But, excuse me. Thanks very much for having me as the closing speaker before lunch, I think. Integrating the human element as a key innovation to deliver sustained improvement in health and safety, culture, and performance. And I know it's an awfully long title. Wally came up with it, but I've got to just sort of say, it's basically encompassing many of the paradigm shifts that are in the new book, Defenseless Moments. And there's 12 in total. And a paradigm shift may be a bit overused, but a different perspective, certainly. And what I'm going to try to provide you with here is a different perspective on what causes the majority of serious injuries, and maybe more importantly, what you can do about it. So, these paradigm shifts also form the basis of Safe Start. The main concepts are on the left: rushing, frustration, fatigue, complacency, cause or contributing to eyes not on task, mind not on task, moving into or being in the line of fire, or somehow losing your balance, traction, or grip. And then what you do about it, if you will, the critical error reduction techniques are on the right. In terms of #1 safety training process in the world, right now I'm in the United States, first time I've been in the US since COVID. But every pickup truck in the United States is #1 at something. But I think you kind of need to be #1 at everything. So we're in 66 countries, 32 languages, over 10,000 work sites, and 4 million people have been trained. So like I said, it's a different perspective on serious injuries. There's 12 chapters in the book. They were also 12 articles that were published in safety magazines during COVID, 2 in the United States, 1 in Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, Peru, Chile, England, Ireland, Russia, Italy, never did get France, and India. So available at safety magazines all around the world. If I can get this to work. And what we're going to talk about, as I said before, is integrating the human element as a key innovation for sustained improvement in health and safety culture and reinforcement. Okay. So, it didn't start off at 10,000 sites and 4 million people, that's for sure. But very quickly, we all know that there are multiple factors in every acute injury. You've got to have at least one source of danger or potentially hazardous energy. You need to have a person or persons involved. And then the theory was that something unexpected had to happen. That set off a chain reaction, and then exactly where you ended up on the old risk pyramid was always talked about as just being a matter of luck or the amount of hazardous energy you were dealing with. In other words, a 1 meter fall was better than a 5 meter fall, and landing on your feet was better than landing on your head. But what about reflexes? How much does whether or not you got the benefit of your reflexes factor into where you ended up on the risk pyramid? So let me ask you right now, how many times driving your car or a motorcycle have you had to hit the brakes quickly? I mean, really quickly, to avoid hitting a car, truck, pedestrian, somebody else on a bicycle or a motorcycle? How many times have you fallen asleep or almost fallen asleep at the wheel but managed to catch yourself at the last second? How many times have you lost your balance but managed to regain it without actually falling or hurting yourself? Hundreds or thousands so far this lifetime. I mean, if you think of, just having to hit the brakes quickly 10 times a week, then, that's 50 weeks in a year, that's 500 in 10 years, that's 5,000 just hitting the brakes quickly. And I've had some trips where I've had to hit the brakes quickly 10 times on the one trip. So maybe like me, you might actually be thinking it's more like tens of thousands of times your reflexes have prevented an injury or an incident. That's interesting. Okay, so in industrial safety, we tend to focus on the hazardous energy and the person and protecting, guarding, engineering, or controlling the hazardous energy so that it doesn't hurt the person. Safe Start or human factors is much more about the person and something unexpected happening. So there are three sources of unexpected events on a daily basis. Either you do something unexpectedly, somebody else does something unexpectedly, or the equipment breaks or malfunctions and it does something unexpectedly. Now obviously there's earthquakes and tidal waves and volcanoes and things like that, but thankfully they're not daily. So I don't get too many arguments from people about the three sources of unexpected events on a daily basis. But when you start asking people what are the percentages, you get all kinds of different perspectives. Like even in a room of 30 safety professionals, you could likely find perspectives varying by more than 50%. And then if you say, okay, what would your coworkers say if we asked them the same question? What I'd like you to do, if you've got a pencil or a paper, or even just your phone, if you want to just use your phone, what do you think the numbers are? What do you think the percentages are? What percentage of total accidental acute injuries do you think are caused by the equipment breaking or failing? What percent do you think are caused by the other guy or somebody else? And then what being left over, being in the self area? Like I said, you'll get all kinds of different perspectives. And then, if you think about what would your coworkers say about the self area, what would your coworkers say about other people, and what would your coworkers say about the equipment? So, I can't see anybody there, so I certainly don't know whether any of you have written anything down or not. I'd like to give you just a bit of time to think about it, though, as opposed to just, 33, 33, 33. But what do you really think those numbers are? What do you think your coworkers would say they are? It's very difficult to find accurate data on all of this, but you certainly know what's happened to you, whether you fell asleep, kangaroo ran out in front of you, a cow, I've heard that before too. Thinking about the serious injuries you've had, broken bones, dislocations, blown ligaments, concussions, comas, third-degree burns, ruptured spleens, punctured lungs, crushed tailbones. Don't have room for all of it up there. But how many of those have you had so far this lifetime? 1 to 5, 6 to 10, or 10 plus? And then think about the recordable injuries, the stitches, sprains, significant muscle strains. How many of those have you had so far this lifetime? 5 to 10, 11 to 16, or 16 plus? So just thinking about the serious injuries you've had. I don't know whether you'd be ahead of the crowd or behind the crowd in terms of the first 125,000 people, but the average was 3 to 7 serious, 8 to 12 minor serious, if you will. Okay? Let me see if I can just move that out of the way a bit. Probably one of the most interesting categories in the whole thing is how many cuts, bruises, bumps, and scrapes have you sustained so far this lifetime? Now, a lot of people, when you ask them this question, they'll think just about their adult life, and they'll be thinking hundreds. But if you get them thinking about the first 10 years of their life, include that it's thousands. I mean, most little kids have got somewhere between 10 to 20 visible cuts, bruises, bumps, and scrapes on them at any one point in time. So again, if we just use week for easy math times 50 weeks in a year times 10 years, that's 5,000 right there. And then you still have to count all the things that happen to you as an adult. Banging your shin, stubbing your toe, dropping something on your foot, falling down the stairs or falling up the stairs, even more embarrassing, not seeing a stop sign or a red light, falling asleep at the wheel or almost falling asleep at the wheel in terms of one of those really long blinks, turning or bumping into something or standing up and banging your head, hitting your hand with a hammer, cutting yourself with a knife, scissors, or a razor, burning your hand, arm, or wrist, spraining an ankle, knee, wrist, or thumb, straining your back, neck, shoulder, falling into or onto something hard or sharp. Most adults have experienced all 13 of those. And you think about things like banging your shin and stubbing your toe, we couldn't begin to count how many times we've done that. So most adults, when you think about cuts, bruises, bumps, and scrapes over the course of your lifetime, most of them will freely admit it, somewhere 5,000, 10,000, maybe 10,000 plus. Now, we got told for years and years as safety professionals that the only difference between the levels was luck. The only reliable data we had was between recordables and lost times. It was usually about 10 to 1. And at 10 to 1, you could kind of say, yeah, it probably, it might have been random chance, it might have been luck. If you've got 1,000 to 1, you ought to be looking for an assignable cause. And then maybe one of the most interesting categories on the whole thing, how many close calls and near misses have you had where if luck wasn't on your side, you could have easily ended up at the top of the risk pyramid? Okay, so just thinking about the serious injuries, because they're really the only ones you can really remember well. How many of you have been seriously hurt, or as I used to say, stitches or worse? How many of you folks here have been seriously hurt because the equipment or the car that you were driving broke, failed, or malfunctioned? In other words, the wire rope snapped, the hose burst, the seal failed, traffic lights started working incorrectly, that kind of stuff. Well, you got 100 people in the room, you normally get 2 to 3 hands up in the air for that question, if you've got about 100 folks. Now, when you ask about the other guy doing something unexpectedly, you have to factor out contact sports where the other guy might be intentionally trying to hurt you, and you definitely have to factor out sports like football, or American football, and hockey, where the other guy is definitely trying to hurt you, because they're not really accidents. But if you're a passenger in a car, and you got hurt, stitches or worse, unless somehow you could reach over, grab the steering wheel, or hit the brake or something, that would count in this category. But again, if you've got 100 people in front of you, and I just did this earlier this week at an aluminum extruders conference in Chicago, there's about 115 people there, got 2 to 3 hands up in the air for the equipment. I got about 8 to 10 hands up in the air for the other guy. Normally you might get as many as 10 to 15 for the other guy, but then when you say, how many of you've got more than one example? Now you've got to have 500 or 600 people in front of you before you see that second hand up. Excuse me, but if you've got just 30 people in the room in front of you, and you say, how many of you have been seriously hurt, stitches or worse, at least once in the self area, you will get over 90% of the people in the room putting their hands up. And if you then bring it down to include all the cuts, bruises, bumps, and scrapes, And like I said, you start thinking about every time you banged your shin and stubbed your toe, how many times did the coffee table do something unexpectedly? How many times when you were shaving did somebody bump into you? You know, when you cut yourself shaving. So when people start thinking about it all, now they will freely admit 97 to 99% it wasn't the equipment and it wasn't the other guy, which is consistent with what the British Safety Council says about auto accident causation and what the North American National Safety Council says for Canada and the United States. So in terms of paradigm shifts, did any of you have 97 to 99% written down for what your coworkers would say in the self area? Because that would be a first for me if you did. Now, the good news is that it isn't the equipment and it isn't the other guy. We can't control the engineering on the bridges. And I don't know about you, sometimes I don't even think I can influence the members of my family or my children. But I could do a much better job of controlling myself if I had better things to work with than be careful or try to be more careful next time or try to pay more attention next time. You can dress it up too. Told the worker to become more cognizant of his situational surroundings in the future. Fancy words for be careful, but no more technology. So the key here is that 97 to 99% are in the self area. So can you think of a time you've been hurt in the self area where you were actually looking at what you were doing? You were thinking about what you were doing. You were aware of the line of fire or conscious of what could be coming at you, and at least aware or paid attention to losing your balance, traction, or grip. Let me just grab a sip of drink and let you think about that just for a second. Can you think of a time in the self area you've been hurt where you didn't make any one or a combination of those four critical areas? Okay, now, can you think of a time you've been hurt in the self area where you weren't rushing, you weren't frustrated, and you weren't overly tired? Just that filter, if you would. Just apply rushing, think of the injuries in the self area, the serious injuries in the self area, and rushing, frustration, fatigue. Because normally that's 50 to 60% of the serious injuries for most people, just those first three states. Now, before I ask about complacency, it's a difficult word for folks native English, but in Spanish or Portuguese or Russian, it means excessive or foolish confidence, which is much more like the second stage of complacency. But everybody understands the concepts, okay? When you first start doing something like riding your bike, it takes 100% of your skill and concentration just to balance on the bike. And if you're like me, you probably fell a couple times too. But as you go along in time, you'll get to the first stage of complacency where the skill or the fear is no longer preoccupying, which means that your mind can wander. And what's really interesting about this first stage is that you don't give your mind permission to wander. It happens without your permission. It's not like any of us were driving for a couple years and we said, you know what, I think I got this, so now I can drive on autopilot. But we all ended up driving on autopilot, and none of us made a conscious decision to do it. Now, you go along a little further in time and you'll get to the second stage, which is where most of us are if we've been driving for 5-10 years. You don't get in the car scared, but you nearly get hit by a big transport truck blowing through a red light, easily could have killed you, like without stopping. Well, now you're thinking about the risk, but it required that external stimulus. There's no more internal stimulus or fear. And when you get to that second stage, it can really start to affect your decision making, or why it would be called it would seem like overconfidence or in some cases, almost foolish confidence. Okay? Now, the reason that you can't stop your mind from wandering when you get to the first stage of complacency is because there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system, and its whole job is to filter out noise. Literally like the noise of the birds in the trees, so our ancestors could hear the rustle in the grass, know that was a snake, and get out of the line of fire. So it's designed to filter out anything that isn't new or different, important, interesting, or pleasurable. I mean, they all did manage to procreate. So you can't, when people get to the first stage of complacency, you really can't stop their mind from wandering. It's kind of like when you go to the swimming pool and you smell the chlorine, and then 15 minutes later you don't smell the chlorine anymore. You didn't make a decision to do that. Your reticular activating system just filtered it out. But if you're not thinking about what you're doing, then you're not going to be expecting anything unexpected to happen. And so you're not going to be on guard, if you will. And then if your eyes go off task, now you're not going to see it or see it coming, which means you're not going to get the benefit of your reflexes. And for that moment, you will be defenseless. Now, just before COVID hit, March 2020, last road trip I was on started on the North Sea from Hamburg, Germany, doing a company that does maintenance on wind farms in the North Sea. So it's a rough ocean. Obviously, you're working at heights. Typically, what we think of as high risk. The Saturday, we're presenting Monday morning to the leadership group. Saturday, one of their men was unloading a small fork truck off the back of a transport truck. He fell 1.5 meters to the ground, hit his head, and died. And we had to open up the meeting with a minute of silence for the man and his family. Now, do you think he got the benefit of his reflexes? So when you look at the majority of serious injuries and fatalities, they're not in the upper right-hand quadrant, they're in the middle. And yet the traditional focus here has been on what I call the usual suspects: high voltage, high pressure, high temperature, working at heights, that sort of stuff, confined space entry. And where more than a reflex is required. In other words, you fall from 20 meters, it's not going to matter whether you get your hand up, okay? But when you look at the data, 62% of the fatalities out of 407 would have been prevented altogether or significantly lessened if the person had have got the benefit of their reflexes. But what about you? Just think about those close calls that you've had that could have killed you, okay? Why didn't it kill you? Did you get the benefit of your reflexes at the very last second? Or was it just blind luck? Or was it just blind luck that you turned and looked and got the benefit of your reflexes? Let me give you just a second to think about that for a second. Okay. Anyhow, that's the assignable cause, is you didn't get the reflex. All right, so now that everybody knows a little bit more about complacency, can you think of a time you've been hurt in the self area where you weren't rushing, you weren't frustrated, you weren't overly tired, and you hadn't become so complacent with the hazards that you just weren't thinking about them at that instant? Because what you'll find 97 to 99% of the time is that it's one or more of these four states causing or contributing to one or more of those four critical errors. That doesn't mean you're going to get hurt. It just means you've increased the risk of getting hurt. But the key to the whole thing is that the states come before the errors, which means you can use the active states, the ones you can feel in the moment, rushing, frustration, and fatigue, as a trigger to keep yourself from making a critical error. So as soon as you realize you're in a rush, you need to be thinking eyes on task, mind on task, line of fire, bounce, traction, grip. About why you are rushing or what's going to happen to you if you're late. Same thing with frustration. Who or what is making you frustrated? Or with fatigue, when will I be able to get some rest or maybe even some sleep? So this is very counterintuitive. It's not nearly as easy as it sounds. Or as Kevin Cobb said, knowing that rushing is a risk isn't much of a trick. Knowing that rushing is a risk when you're in a rush, that takes a heck of a lot of work. So, this is the first and the most important critical error reduction technique. And if you were going to be teaching this stuff to your kids, and they're running for the school bus, or they're running for school, and they're worried about what am I going to tell the teacher? Is she going to send me down to the principal's office? Am I going to get in trouble? No. You got to teach your kids that that first thought has got to be eyes, mind, line of fire, balance, traction, grip. You get hit by a car on your way to the school bus or school, you're not going to have to worry about school today. And twice as many children die accidentally as workers every year. So that's the first, and like I said, the most important critical error reduction technique. Learn how to trigger on the state so you don't make the error and you don't increase the risk. Now, it would be great if you could self-trigger on complacency, but as I said before, complacency leads to mind not on task, and if you're not thinking about what you're doing, then your behavior, almost by definition, is going to be what you do automatically or habitually. So I'd just like you to look at this list of safety-related habits. There's my number one right there. Move your eyes first before you move your hands, feet, body, or car. But if you were looking over this list of 5 habits, which one would give you the most benefit? And I know you can all read, but I'm just going to read them to you to give you enough time to pick which one would be your number one. Look at and test your footing or grip before you commit your weight. Look carefully at anything you're going to stick your hand into or rest your hand on. Move your eyes first before you move your hands, feet, body, or car. Look for line of fire potential before moving. Blind corners, blind alleyways, that sort of thing. Really important if you're on a motorcycle. And then look for things that could cause you to lose your balance, traction, or grip. So which would be your number one? Like I said, quite often what you'll find is that people who work at heights will pick this one as their number one. Look at and test your footing or grip. People on motorcycles, like I said, will pick this as their number one. Look carefully at anything you're going to stick your hand into. Industrial mechanics typically pick that. And construction workers and mothers typically pick number 5. Look, because there's a lot of stuff around a construction site, usually, cords, hoses, things. You got to watch where you're walking. So we get people to put a bit of effort into improving their safety-related habits that will help to compensate for complacency leading to mind not on task. Okay? Unfortunately, though, if you add enough rushing or frustration to the situation, it will hijack your brain, the amygdala hijack, right down to your subcortex, or what you may have heard referred to as the reptile or the lizard brain. And this is where your baseline habits would be. So even if you learn a new habit, like looking over your shoulder when you change lanes, if you're in a rush, you may not look or you may not look well because you are in a rush. So again, back to why the self-triggering is the most important. Even if you learn new habits, enough rushing, enough frustration can override the new habit, take you back to the old one. So you've got to learn how to self-trigger on those 2 states. The third technique, and one of the most important, is look at others for the patterns that increase the risk of injury. This will help to bring your mind, just like when you see a bad car wreck on the side of the highway and people are more aware for at least 30 or 40 seconds. If you see a state to error risk pattern, they're all over the place, but it's got to be different. Now you see something like this, hopefully you'd be more mindful walking down the steps. But if you were used to seeing people ride the center line like this, it may not light up your RAS as being dangerous. So you actually need to train your RAS to look at others for these state to error risk patterns until you get good at spotting them. Now, if most of you folks are in the health and safety profession, my guess is you're very good at spotting hazards. You can walk around with supervisors and managers, and they don't see half the things that you see, because they haven't trained their reticular activating system to look for hazards nearly the same way you have. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people only use their reticular activating system to be able to spot liquor stores at a great distance. But you can train your reticular activating system, okay, but it takes a bit of work. And then the last and probably the most, well, not necessarily the most important one, certainly the most important one to start off with the kids, though, is get them to think about where have you been hurt before. And then when you have a little injury, or even just you lose your balance, you don't even have to bump into something. Ask yourself why. You don't lose your balance every minute or every hour, and sometimes not even every day. Obviously once or twice a week for all of us, but why this time? Was it a state like rushing, frustration, or fatigue that you didn't self-trigger on quickly enough? Or if it was mostly complacency leading to mind not on task, then it's probably a safety-related habit that still needs more work, or you're going to have to put a bit more effort into looking at others for the patterns that increase the risk of injury. Okay. The last part of this, though, is thinking about how it could have been worse. And when you, and when you contemplate the worst case scenario, neural pathways are created that associate the states and the critical errors with danger. And eventually what happens is your subconscious starts to feel exposed when you get into one of those states or a combination of them. Now, the easiest non-technical way I can explain it, it's like when you go to see a movie and you know something bad's going to happen because the music changes. And you're like, no, don't go around the corner, the guy's got a gun, he's going to shoot you, and then bang, the guy's got shot. You're like, oh, you idiot, you didn't listen to the music. Well, in the real world, there is no music, obviously. But you can get to the point with practice and training where when you're in a rush, it's almost like you can hear the danger music, and it helps you to slow down if you can, and if you can't slow down, then at least keep your eyes and mind on task and on the risk of what you're doing. In other words, right now I'm driving to the airport, not on whether you might miss your plane when you get to the airport. Or, I'm driving to the meeting, not what's going to happen at the meeting if I'm late. All right, so we've got the critical error reduction techniques, and we obviously need to train the people and get them to put a bit of effort in them. Obviously, your habits aren't going to change without a bit of effort. And this will take a big bite out of the injuries that are in the self area, which is 97 and 99% of them. We can help people prevent making those two critical errors at the same time, where they're not thinking about it, they're not on guard, and then you don't see it, or you don't see it coming. You don't get the benefit of your reflexes, and for that moment, you're defenseless. Now, when I first started bringing this pattern in North America 21 years ago, I had a lot of safety professionals saying that I should never be allowed to speak at a safety conference again because I was just blaming the worker. Well, first of all, there is a big difference between help and blame. You don't blame in all the protection and the guarding and the devices, etc. A great deal of it is aimed at human error already. Okay, I mean, we've had barriers like the guardrail at the side of the river so the people couldn't slip and fall into the river, right? But in the workplace, you know, interlock. So you go in the cage, the robots stop. Lockout tagout's a perfect example. Even if somebody hits the start button by mistake, nothing can move because it's all locked out. I mean, we even got cars now where you have to lock the car with the keys, so you can't lock the keys inside the car. So we've had stuff at the front end, barriers and engineering controls for years and years. And we've had stuff at the back end, seat belts, helmets, fall arrest harnesses. Didn't stop you from losing your balance, traction, or grip in the first place, but it did a great job of keeping you from falling to your death. So we've had stuff at the front end and the back end for years, but it wasn't enough. And then we added the mobile phone. And I'm sure we would all agree that in terms of eyes on task and mind on task when people are moving, the mobile phone has not been a help. It's also caused a lot of serious injuries and fatalities, especially out there on the road. So, like I said, we've had stuff at the front end for years and years. We've had stuff at the back end for years and years. What we didn't have was anything to stop the 4 states from causing critical errors. Okay, so now we've got the critical error reduction techniques. But we know nobody was ever trying to get seriously hurt. But do you think anybody was ever trying to make any serious performance errors either? So we make a lot of mistakes when we're learning something new, but as adults, we only get to spend about 5 to 10% of our day doing something new or learning something new. I mean, think about it. Get up, brush your teeth, make coffee, eat breakfast, shower, get dressed, go to work. I mean, do you need to ask anybody directions when you know how to get to work? Once you get to work, you need to ask anybody where your office is or what the login is for your laptop. I mean, you know, how much of your day do you get to spend doing the same thing? You go out in the plant and you say, hey, Fred, how's it going? You go, same old, same old. So I don't think their life changes much either. Anyhow, if you think about the 95% of the things you do every day where you're not learning something new, why do you make mistakes if you know what you're doing and you've done it before and you've done it before successfully? Rushing, frustration, fatigue, and complacency. Just think about entering your password on the laptop. When you're in a rush, how many times have you had to do it over? So we can extend the critical error reduction techniques from critical errors to perform. Okay? Now, that takes us right through to chapter 12, but I mean, this is Nucor Steel. As you can see, they did very well with safety. They also really took the family, you know, everybody, you know, Boo Boo Bandits. They did all the family stuff, the videos, the coloring books. They had a great family day. I was there. And teaching people, you know, is the highest form of retention. So, yeah, they did a really good job with the course, getting it out to everybody's family. And they did really well with safety. But they also got a 53.5% decrease in cost per ton. Honda, I mean, Japanese automotive manufacturer in North America did very well in terms of safety at work, but they saved $2.3 million in first-run defects. That's what took it to the rest of Honda in North America, the combination. Service Center Metals, an aluminum extruding company I was working, one of them I worked with at the conference, 48% decrease in customer complaints. GH Metal Solutions went from, you know, 11 to 1,200 defects per million down to 600 defects per million, and they reduced their injuries. I mean, now they're almost close to zero. These guys are just killing it. not Procter & Gamble, but Kimberly-Clark, 20% improvement in asset conversion. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, the big rolls of paper that come in that we turn into Kleenex and toilet paper, Larry, 20% improvement in that. We didn't do anything. Quadrant Plastics, 20 to 45% decrease in scrap. Scott Forge, already 2 out of the last 7 years, won the Safest Company in America award, and they got a 40% decrease in customer complaints. And Procter & Gamble had a 70% decrease in unscheduled downtime. They've gone now down to 0, this is 660 people, 0 recordable injuries for almost 24 months. And they are the #1 plant in Procter & Gamble for operating efficiency. So, as the title says, it's not just integrating, it is also improving the human element. Teaching them and training them those critical error reduction techniques, getting them to put some effort and some work into their safety-related habits and their performance-related habits. But the human element is a key innovation to deliver sustained improvement in health, safety, and environment, but also in overall company performance. Think about it. Nobody's ever trying to make any serious mistakes. I was at a plant once where this guy shipped 4 truckloads, 154 skids of product to their best customer instead of the second best customer that actually ordered it. But there's stuff going out of that warehouse to those 2 customers all the time. So it isn't because he doesn't know what he's doing. Little rushing, little complacency, and just a bit of fatigue. And, a really expensive shipment, and also, kind of fairly embarrassing as well, too. So, like I said, from human error to improved performance, and the human element at your company is that key factor in that. All right. You can get the book on Amazon, and you can also listen to the podcasts, or if you will, some of where I had more time to tell about the stories behind some of the discoveries and the paradigm shifts. I don't know which ones to pick sometimes in terms of the best, but if you can, please get a copy of the book, or at least listen to the podcast, and you can see for yourself. But again, thanks very much, everybody. Okay. Do you want to take over then, Olawale?
Round of applause for Larry again. Thank you. I believe we've been learning quite a lot. For me, I learned here that if anything happens, you save what first? You save what first? Save your eyes. That I could get that a whole lot. So we have learned from what Larry has been able to project. Now we quickly want to improvise. We will not be doing the 4th presentation now, but the convener will come up and we will take the point 2, team setting, keynote speech, then we'll cap it up with the closing thoughts. We'll bring all of this together so that we'll be able to save our time. We will then we need to let us know that after now, the next event will be a ticketed event. So if you are not within that category, we may likely leave. So we'll call Mr. Oguyebi Olawale to the podium now. He's an HSE expert with many years of experience. He practiced HSE both inside and outside Nigeria with a lot of organization.
He has developed HSE policies and programs that has contributed immensely to the world of safety. He pioneered HSE leadership development program in Lagos, Nigeria. He is the convener of this present HSE leadership conference. He is a mentor, he is a coach, he is a captain, he is a director, he is a leader. Currently, he is the managing partner of MTC Nigeria. Can we give him a round of applause? Okay, you can come up, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. First, I must say that I'm overwhelmed, not just with the presence of the speakers and the panel members, but for all of us, the attendees, who made time out to be here. Can you give a round of applause to yourself just for being here? You know, coming to this side of the world is not easy, and that's why I said I'm quite impressed. We also have our online audience who also joined, so I really appreciate everybody for coming. My name is Wale Olawale Ogunyebi. I'm the managing partner for MTC. You may not have heard about MTC before because we are just 5 years old. But I'm very proud of the program we run, especially providing platforms like this for professionals in the business. I run on goodwill, people's goodwill. The organizer of AfriSave Award told me something that most of the time is not, you don't really need money to fulfill your plan. That goodwill is a currency. Yeah? For example, all our speakers, all those who came, they came on goodwill. And if I tell you that this venue where we are is on goodwill. So I really appreciate all our support. Please, can we have the slide? My slide, please. So I want to introduce us to what I call the MTC Health, Safety, Environment Leadership Development Club. You can also call it Center. Next slide. Just a little about MTC. We as an organization support industries that want to implement systems and programs that leads to cultural transformation and 24/7 injury. That's very important. 24/7 injury. Most of the time, the focus in the workplace. But how many of us know that you are most likely to be injured at home? 5 times more likely to be injured at home than even at work. How many of us are aware of that? Or on the road? So there's a lot of focus on the workplace. Last week I was with an organization doing very well on safety. The challenge they are having now is how do we get our people to take safety home? So we are trying to focus not just in the workplace, but out of work. How about on the roads? And how about at home? So that's what we do. Next slide, please. So the MTC Leadership Development Center, our goal is to grow and nurture world-class HSE culture transformation thinkers and leaders. And that's what a platform like this is about. We've had a lot about the expectation on the HSE professional, that our job is not just to stop work, stop work order, but we need to do more. So our mission is to create platforms for building newcomers in HSEQ, and also to develop future C-suite leaders in HSE. Already, some of my senior colleagues are doing quite a lot in terms of that, and I'm very happy to say that even in the course of this program, we have people saying we should be having safety people, leading the business. Now, many of us will struggle with top management involvement or top management commitment. But imagine if you, as the HSE professional, you implement some of the things we've learned here, and then you are actually the one leading the organization. You will now be in a better position to introduce or to influence or to drive the culture. So the era of being an expert, I used to think that when they call you a safety expert, it's a good name. In my former organization, they call me safety expert, and I thought it was a good name. But the disadvantage of that was when jobs are being discussed, I don't get discussed. Wale is very good on safety. Let's just keep him happy. Yeah? So, but now, for most of us here, you still have the opportunity. And I'm very happy, and that's why we brought in someone like Tope, the HR director. How does top management, how do they look at us? And how can we actually develop those kind of skills that we need to be able to play at a level where we are not just influencing leadership, but we are leaders and driving the business. That's where we need to go. Next slide. So what are the benefits of being a member or joining this Health and Safety Leadership Development Center? What are the benefits? Number one, you'll be exposed to monthly career coaching sessions on essential technical and soft skills for managers, one-on-one access to mentors' wealth of experience and knowledge. How many of us would like to visit organizations that are doing well on HSE? Anyone? Maybe on the weekend, you want to pay a visit to Nigeria, to Unilever, to maybe NNL and G, Shell, and stuff like that. So that's part of the benefit of being a member of the center. Then we also have benefit of CV reviews and first access to HSE jobs and headhunters. You won't believe it. Today, if there is an advert to fill one HSE manager's job, how many applications do you think you will get? Any guess? No, maybe not up to millions. But I can assure you, to fill one role, you will not get anything less than 200 applicants. Even when you tell them, even when you specify the job description, somebody told me that what they told us is just try your luck, just try. So the job of the the HR manager recruitment is being made difficult. And what has that done? Now you get jobs mainly on referrals. And I can tell you, even my colleagues here, my senior colleagues here will tell you, we get a lot of job referrals. We get a lot of requests for jobs. So that's one of the benefits you get by being a member of the center. And then, because of time, real-time advice on HSE problems from experienced professionals, like I said. And then professional network away days. Professional network away days. All work and no play make Jack a dull boy. So these are some of the benefits you get by subscribing to the club or the center. Final slide. So there is the option of subscribing for 3 months, for 6 months, over 12 months. And these are the subscription fees. As you can see, we've made it in such a way that it's affordable when you compare it to the benefits that we stand to gain. I think this is the last slide. Yes? Thank you very much. For those who might want to subscribe to the center, already you have, you can meet them at the MTC stand and just indicate and put down your name. In the course of, before the end of the year, we'll hear more about the opportunities that we have in this center. Once again, before we go to the final session, I might not come up again, so I just want to thank my senior colleagues. I want to thank Mr. Denuga, Prof. Dapo, Engineer Jamiu is not here, Kamali, Cynthia, Idris, and all these people who have supported this program. And also I want to thank HSE Nations, the organizer of AfriSave, for also the opportunity to use the venue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Before the last speaker, we'll quickly take some questions, so maybe our panelists will help us in this. Maybe I would probably give the question to the moderator of the panel discussion. So you will help us with that. If it's in, okay. Is that okay? Let me read out the question. So Dr. Idris is still around. You can just help us with this. This one says, at what point, please you can come to the, okay. Here we are. So maybe you can come to the podium, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Thank you. Okay. This person says, at what point does occupational health and safety cut across environmental sustainability issues? This is Jamil. Just a minute.
All right. So, occupational health and safety, as well as sustainability, in a way, I would say they are sisters of the same father, right? In the sense that sustainability is an integral part of the business that looks at the environmental aspects. Yeah. How does our business, what are the components of our business, how does it impact on the environment? And how can we make it sustainable in such a way that we don't affect the capability or the ability of the oncoming generation to also utilize those resources? Now, while doing this, there are also the human components. You know, there are the interactions. People will also be using these resources. There are definitely going to be overlap. Say, for example, I'll give just a very, very typical example. People will be interacting with our raw material components. People will be interacting with our packaging components. What impact will these items also have on their own health and well-being? So definitely there are some interrelationship in between. So we cannot really divorce that. I don't know if Prof will also have some arguments. Thank you.
Yes, we still have some here. Maybe if time permits, we can take live questions. This person says, how do we influence our leaders or managers to practically implement safety policies in our workplace? I think maybe our convener
Okay, I think we heard a lot about that from the HR director of Friesland Campina on how we can influence leaders. The good news for us is that even now leaders are asking questions because of the pressure. There's a lot of awareness now. Things are changing. By the way, how many of us here are HSE managers or officers in companies, in businesses? Can you just indicate by raising up your hand? You are an HSE officer or manager on a site or in a company. Okay. Thank you. Now, during this COVID era, how many of you had the experience of your top management coming to you and saying, what do we do? Or looking up to you and asking, what do we do? How many of us? Aha, you can see. So, meaning that this is the time for us to really be on the table when decisions are being made. So the question, and that's why we have this program, the question is, are you ready? Are you ready? Have you developed yourself to have those kind of skills where you can play at that level? And it's very, very important. So unlike before, now we are relevant. Now people are looking for you. But do you have the solution? So I think that's the major challenge that the practitioner have today. Your top management, they want answers. They are asking questions. But do you have the answers? Do you have the skills, to play at that level? It's very, very important. And like Tope said in the morning, one of the ways to get top management is by speaking their language. Yeah? They talk numbers. They talk value. They talk performance. Speaking their numbers. You heard him, you heard what he said in the morning, that he asked his HSE manager, were you in the sales meeting? And the guy said no. So it's about getting involved in the business, not just in safety. Be visible, not just when it comes to only safety matters. Be visible within the business. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I think the organization too should have what we call an elaborate safety policy. If you get, sorry that I'm adding this, if you get to most organizations, from my background as human resource, a human resource person will always want to believe that human resource has encompassed safety. But when you go in depth, you will know that it is high time safety, or it is high time maybe HR and safety is divorced. I don't know what happened in most organizations, but what we see is that they are always under, they are not at the top level, maybe director and what have you, making strategic decisions. So I think if organizations too can look into that and position them strategically, I think it will go a very long way in inculcating safety into our organization. Thank you, sir. Yes, let's go to this. Cynthia will help us on that. How can one be able to build an organizational safety culture in a sector who thinks they know all about safety and also they know how they can implement them? Okay, thank you. Say, how can one be able to build an organizational safety culture in a sector who thinks they know all about safety and also they know how they can implement them?
Okay, so when you say in a sector that know all about safety, knowing is one thing, implementing it is another thing. Or rather, knowing is one thing, accepting it is another thing, and then implementing it or putting commitment to the implementation is another thing. So, if you are talking about establishing a positive safety culture in an organization, I will go back to the company's value. for you to be able to do that in an organization and convince the management, first of all, you must be able to identify and know the organizational value of that organization in terms of what they believe, what they drive, and where they want to be. So if you are able to identify that, you can come up with a plan to address how the culture you are selling, because actually you're selling something to them, right? So if you know their value, you know where they are and where they want to be or become as an organization, then you know what to sell to them and how to sell it. Just like one of the speakers that talked about, that drew my attention to two things, he talked about the cost benefit of your suggestions, and then how often do we meet with other stakeholders, and he mentioned the sales department or the sales manager or the finance manager, procurement, as the case may be. So if you want to establish a positive culture, first of all, you must be able to identify stakeholders in that organization as well, where you have done your very, very primary things to understand the value of the company, what they want to do and where they are going, and what the culture you want to sell to them, how it's going to help them, because that's what it will be at the end of the day. Then the second thing you may want to do is to organize or identify other stakeholders that will help you to drive this culture, so that at the decision table, when your case or you present your case or your recommendations or your interventions, you also see other stakeholders who have understood how the culture will benefit them in sales, how that culture will benefit them in procurement, how that culture will also benefit them probably in facility admin, right? So when those decisions are being made, of course you will also have support in driving or the organization accepting a proposition you are making. And basically you also be very key and very, very observant on the numbers, because you have to, at every intervention or at every point, you must be able to give credence to the profit in naira and cents, how much the organization is going to get, how much is that safety culture going to bring back to them, in whichever way to bring value to the organization. So as professionals or intending professionals, you must be able to align the safety culture, align it with the value of the company, or the value or the culture of the company, and identify their values. Then you can be able to sell a culture that they will buy, right? And of course, you are not going to do it alone. You are going to involve other stakeholders that will help in those decision making, so that at the round table, when conclusions or decisions, final decisions will be made, of course you'll be getting support in your intervention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So I believe that's well understood. There is a question here that I'll just summarize. This person says that how can technology help in controlling hazard? So maybe Dr. Idris can help us on that. How can technology control hazard?
Okay, so with the recent events and with the change in the entire business landscape, I think by and large there's a lot of technological infusion into what we do every day as well business, right? So looking at how we can actually marry technology with our risk control, and I think I will take our mind back to our hierarchy of control for some of us that are either aspiring HSE professionals or practicing HSE professionals. One of the most reliable control, which you would always flash on, is engineering control. And most times, either engineering control or, of course, eliminating whatever the source of risk, as the case may be. And there's no way you can actually do that without bringing in some component of, technology, right? Without going into so many technical details, there are certain instances where some jobs that need to be done physically, now they are being done remotely. I'll give you a typical example. Before now, if you need to, say for example, my plant now, I need to check the status of the roof. It's leaking somewhere, I'm having some rust, I'm having some issues. Rather than set up a scaffold and start putting people on top of fragile roof, I can easily take a drone, survey the entire roof plan, take some closer look, have some real-time assessment, plan for the job properly before I eventually have to put someone there. But then I already have an idea what the place looks like. That's an example of how technology will actually help you manage risk. A typical example, rather than put someone inside a boiler or a confined space, I would easily put in an appropriate drone, that can survey inside the confined space, go into some crevices that might be not just uninhabitable for human, but probably even more injurious to them if I have to put someone in there. So that's just a typical example.
And that was the aspect where I scored only 2/10. Because I didn't understand all those their cost-benefit nonsense that they were talking about. I just couldn't understand it. There was a time Cynthia taught us cost-benefit. That was one of the biggest training I did some time ago. And I looked at it, I said, wow, is that true? Because that's what ESG is all about. The governance part of it is law and HR. I'm not a lawyer, so what's my own with governance? But that's what we have to learn right now. So I also want to challenge us, as many of us that are keen on this, let's take the journey and let's start the journey and start learning. But I'm sure in a few years' time, most of us here will have to replace our title by a new one. It's called the ESG. That's where we are. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we take any live question from the... Okay. Please, you can come. Let's pick... Okay. Please, you can come. Let's make it very quick because of our time.
Thank you very much. I want to appreciate the panelists for their time and very good one. I'm happy I came. Yes. Oh, my question is on emotional safety. Because we have situation whereby inability of a particular worker to speak up of a particular risk that has potential of causing a great damage to a particular setting, probably whatever the organization may be. So how do we balance, HSE expert now, how do you balance emotional safety with the real thing? Yes, thank you. That's my question.
I think Cynthia can do that for us.
Very, very interesting. Okay, the question, if I got it correct, is how do you balance emotional safety and the hazard itself? Okay, so interestingly, emotional safety, you may call it, some people call it emotional intelligence, some people may call it part of well-being, kind of, right? Is coming up, is becoming a concern, right? If you look at it at the category of the type of risk, you could see it under the psychosocial aspect. And to also let you know that it's becoming a focus right now is that the ISO has actually developed a supported ISO management system addressing or managing psychosocial risk, right? That just came in 2021. So it's something, but unfortunately, it's going to be a very hard or a tough one because just like the health aspect, it's just a branch of it. You do not see people go in through effects of stress, and you could categorically say that these stressors are mainly from the workplace, so to say, right? But the idea we have to, if you talk about balance, I think for professionals, we need to really start identifying the real hazard, maybe the safety hazards and all that, but also recognizing the psychosocial hazards that affect people's health. For instance, violence. For instance, work overload in the organization. For instance, harassment, things like that. So you could start by having a register risk identifying those areas, able to follow it through to determine or to give assurance that the impact that you are seeing in a particular individual is as a result of this work-related psychosocial issue, right? So one thing you need to do before you can make a balance is to recognize it, to anticipate it first and to recognize it. So what do I mean by that? In some organizations, you found that HR has supported in this area by making up some policies, maybe around harassment, around bullying, things like that has happened in some organizations. But it is way beyond that. What of stress that also has to do with that, right? What of fatigue, your drivers that have to go in, you do not take into cognizance the hours of work they put in. So as professionals, I would want to say or encourage you, maybe you will have to grab up that ISO management system, ISO 45003, 2021, that literally focuses on the psychosocial risk management and talks about things that has to do with the mental health or emotional hazard, basically. So you're able to look at the one that is peculiar to your organization and also speaks to the organizational mission and values for that particular organization, because not everything in the management system actually addresses to a particular organization. So you should be able to identify those top emotional or psychosocial risks and then be able to follow it through by engaging the people who may be exposed to that, getting to know if they've experienced X, Y, Z as an impact, and then you could be able to put in a proper control or may suggest an intervention that may help to control such. And that in that way, you are able to balance both the other safety hazards that in the organization, as well as looking at the emotional or psychosocial related hazards in an organization. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do you have any other? Okay, please, you can just come up. If you have any question, please, you can come out so that you can do this very. Do you have a question?
Good afternoon, all. My question is about the technology we spoke about. I am very interested in when you talk about technology, because in the organization I work, there is a lot of technology used in all what we do. Now, Mr. Dapo said something that the HSE professional right now, there is no extinction because you have an opportunity to grow. But I just want to bring up an example. Sometimes last year, I had a colleague that worked with me. Unfortunately, his role was phased out. Why? Because we adopted a safety management system. Okay, we call it SafeSide. Now, he was in charge of data and everything that had to do with data. But we bought a new safety management system, and he was no more relevant in the organization anymore. Now, bring it to the future right now. I have, you will call the head of a department with decades of experience in health and safety. But he has not been able to properly adapt because, of course, being an HSE professional from the 80s, there's a lot of technology and data right now in health and safety. So what would you advise for somebody in such a position? How does he or she adapt to the current technology, knowing very well that he worked those days and right now a lot of things have changed? So what would be your advice?
I think maybe one minute for Idris and Elsie.
All right, thank you very much. I think the reality is anything new has to be learned. Anything new has to be learned. I'm aware that the brain has capacity to learn. What happens sometimes is that sometimes you are tired of learning, especially when you have another thing that is occupying that space. If it's a technology, most of us, when the COVID came, learned to use the Zoom by force. It was not there before. I have meetings I do right now. I have people that ordinarily to talk to before. I have to travel down from here to go and see them. And you hear them say, oh, don't worry, set up a Zoom. So if my grandfather is using a Zoom right now, then you know what that means. He never saw Zoom until last year. But now he knows the only way he will see me
is to log on to that link. So when I send it to him, he calls me, how do I join? And I teach him. Eventually what happens, he set up himself now and he's calling me for a meeting. That's it. So at what age? 75. So guys, you can learn anything. That's what I think. I joke with a few of my people when I and the rest of them. She knows when I'm passing that gist. I said, I don't want to learn book again. She knows what I want to learn. So, but you can learn. So if there is technology, sorry guys, if you refuse to go with technology now, there's no career you can ever pursue. All careers have moved on, and technology is the driver. So I'm not a techie person, but I'm also learning some few things to make me relevant in my industry. So I'm not changing to an IT guru, but what I need to become a professional, to become professionally excellent as a safety professional in this global dynamic world, I will get it through technology, no matter what it costs me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, nothing really much to add to what Gaddafi had actually said, but maybe I'll just be a bit blunt. You know, I'll be a bit blunt. The truth is, a whole lot is changing, yeah, and this is not just limited to safety, as it were. I'll give you a typical example. There used to be some days when the way we do the mundane accounting is we call it bookkeeping, but do we still have bookkeeping right now? No. Even right now, the traditional accounting, as it were, it's fast also changing, right? Now you have even companies, of course, in the bid to adapt to changing economic environment and all. People are even outsourcing their HR, their human resources. Companies are outsourcing their finance. Even IT in itself is being outsourced. You have a small company in India handling IT for you in Nigeria or so that's the thing, and that's how it's happening. So until you start to think and adapt, and of course think, anticipate, and adapt, lots of jobs would go, lots of jobs would come. So of course you need to anticipate, you need to upskill yourself. What is the next phase? What is coming? What's happening? What is the mega trend? Right? So what skill do I have now? And if I'm to remain relevant, what skill do I need to get? Right now, Gaddafi had mentioned ESG, and the only thing I can think of right now is to start scouting for how to connect, because that's the truth. We need to keep ourselves. If not, the wave will definitely come. It's either you ride it or you sink. And I think that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to give you, add to what they are saying, they've already said. I want to share some insight in my company, what we used, or what we are still even using when we set up the task force to manage COVID. So one of the requirements was that on a daily basis, our team will analyze the global, the African, and Nigeria, and then our company. So just like Dapsi said, you must learn. That was when I started learning data analytics. Putting all those things, because it has to be pictorial. The management has to just see one page, analyze it. Okay, this is global, coming to Africa, where we are in Africa, then coming to Nigeria, and then our company. And that is exactly what we use. We all went back to learn. And currently, what are we using with that, what we've learned? We are not trying to move it into our quarterly analysis and all those things. We have to change the way we present data to them. Some of us are asking, how do you convince the management? They're not going to go through all those pages. But we have to learn different technological softwares that help us in order to bring that number to make sense with the whole number, and then give them what they are looking for. So the truth is that I'm not trying to be an IT person or a guru in it. I'm just trying to do my job in a way that will support what I'm doing, and then get me the feedback I want. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, yeah, we have. Please, can you give them this?
Good afternoon. honorable panelists, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anita Anson. My question is with respect to the implementation and establishment of HSE management system in organization. According to record, it is proven that there are three imperative reasons why HSE should be established in an organization. The first, which is financial reason, the second, which is moral reason, then the third, which is the legal reason. I've come to really observe that in Nigeria, basically, we are deficient from the aspect of the legal. Because there are some organizations that, if they don't see financial reason or moral reason, but if they see police or they see lawyer, I think HSE will become a key part of their business. And that's what is obtainable in Europe and the Western world, whereby you fought, you know definitely either a court order is waiting for you or the police is waiting for you and the rest of them. So my question is, how can we as HSE professionals, individually and collectively, get to make the legal reasons for establishment of HSE be established in Nigeria? And this I'm also referring to the senior committee. How can we drive policies and the rest of them? Because for me it's a major concern. So if I don't know if there's any plan in it and how can we really go? Even if you are HSE manager or HSE supervisor in an organization, a good example is a worker. Of course, you have told the director or saying that this team is not working out, and the worker gets to work and gets injured. Either gets his hand cut off, at the end of the day, he's receiving a sack letter, and you're the HSE manager, and you know that this is not right. So how can you go about establishing that even this worker still benefits or receive the necessary benefits at face in a team, and your conscience is also at peace in that particular organization?
Thank you. We are looking at a very critical issue here. The legal aspect of all that we are discussing. I think this is going to cut across the panelists so that we hear them one after the other, maybe like one minute. But from my HR perspective, I think it's a serious issue. It's a serious issue, especially if you go to all these Indian companies. Oh, you will pity. In fact, and what he's saying now, they will go and settle, go. And what do you want to settle? The only language they hear is when they see police or custom. You know, many of them don't have papers. When you say custom is coming, go, and they can give you millions to settle custom. And, you know, different and chop up. A lot of issues. I don't know, before I hand over the mic, maybe some of us read it some time ago in Delta State. It was inside one of these big hotels. This lady never knew that the lift, the elevator was under repair. She didn't know. Not knowing that the inside has been opened up from, I think, 5th floor or so. The inside has been opened up, and then the lift is open. Just as if, if you want to enter. The lady did not know. There were never signs to show that, maintenance is going on, repair is going on. The lady just entered from the 5th floor. She died immediately. These are concerns. So I think the question of our gentleman here is, how do we strengthen the legal aspects of HSE so that our managers and captains of industries will be more serious about it? So let's give it to Dapsley so that he will do a good job with that.
All right, thank you. I wanted to tell my colleague and my friend there that when I saw the way he was talking and the passion there, the only thing I see is that it feels like he should resign from that place if he's working there. So I want to advise you that if you have packed your bag, shut down your laptop, and you are ready to go and you have resigned, then you can report. Because morally, you cannot even report your own organization. That's the moral justification. So when you find yourself in such a situation where you are between the deep blue sea and the devil, then you know you have to do something. Our legal infrastructure unfortunately, we can discuss that from here to God knows. I think just about a month ago, Lagos State Safety Commission had a stakeholders and law review in this same hall. And I was here, and we looked at the laws that they want to bring on board. Now, the issue is not that the laws are not even there. The issues are we are not implementing. And there's no need to have more laws as far as I'm concerned if we are not implementing. It's the same thing as you have a policy in your organization signed by your management but not implemented. So what's the need for it? It says you should not work more than 5 p.m. and you're working till 10 p.m. If you cannot do it in your organization alone, then you can imagine the problem Nigeria is having. So what we can do is to continue to canvass for this. This is not the parliament and this is not the House of Assembly. But some of us are making noise, and we need to join the noise to say we need things to be done the right way. If you are in your workplace and you are able to also ensure that your workplace is safe, there will not be need for litigation. As a matter of fact, that's the least important reason indeed for managing safety. But that's what they understand in Nigeria. Because once police is coming, everybody will fall in place. But so maybe we should get more police in safety to come in, and let things be done. But it's a big deal. And I think we can only continue to push so that the little laws that are in place can even be implemented before you start looking for the big ones. If you are not implementing the small ones, the big one will be even a joke for us to handle. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think we'll end this session. A round of applause for our panelists. We have the last speaker. Thank you so much. Thank you. We appreciate your input. That's well noted. Our last speaker, the fourth presenter, is here, and that is rising up to the changing roles of the HSE auditor in an evolving world. We have Engineer Jamiu Badmus. Anywhere, yes, a round of applause for him. Anywhere you see Professor Dapo, don't look too far. You will see Engineer Jamiu. And anywhere you see Engineer Jamiu, if you ask very well, then Dapo is there. And of course, the same scenario has just played out today. And we appreciate them. Engineer Jamiu Badmus is a versatile, analytical, and passionate HSE professional. He has experience in business sustainability, enterprise risk professional with many years of hands-on experience. He is a certified IRCA lead auditor in QMS and OH&S, making him one of the 11 internationally certified management system auditors in Nigeria. This is awesome. Can we give him a round of applause? He's here to pour all of these experiences on us. You are highly welcome, sir.
All praises and adoration are due to the Almighty Wise Creator, the first without a beginning and the last without an end. Having celebrated my Almighty God, I want to say I celebrate all of us present here today, all my leaders present, from IOS, from leaders, from WSO leaders, from PISPON leaders, from all the professional groups that are here. If I start to mention them, we will not stop, we will continue to mention them, and that will be the end of the lecture today. So I celebrate you, all of you all. Today, the topic that I'll be speaking about is on what are the rising challenges to HSE auditors, what are the things that are coming up now in HSE auditing that we need to start thinking about as professionals. Because when COVID came, a lot of things have come into place and they've changed the way we work, the way we do things. And of course, all the presenters, I celebrate you all. Very good presentations from the one from Prof. That's the Pomolade to the human resource experts. The lecture was so fantastic and we appreciate you all. And to all the panelist sessions, great job, good job. Today, as you can see, the changing roles of HSE auditor in an evolving world. You see, this world is dynamic. Things are changing. If you want to live in the world that is static, then you leave this world. Because everything is changing, and we must be ready to navigate through the way they are changing. That is why Charles Darwin put it in one of his statements. That look, it is not the strongest, it is not the most intelligent that will be able to navigate through situation, crises like this. It is the one that is most adaptive to change. You must understand that a lot of things can happen. Next slide. Having said this, I want to greet us in the greeting of the present moment. I don't want to greet the way all my leaders have greeted, doing elbow. You know, elbow greeting when we were in university those days, we say it's courteous that greet that way. So a lot of you, when you see us greeting that way, you run away. That these are courteous. So now, we are, because of the new so-called new normal, we are now all here. For me, I'm going to use leg. Can we all stand up where we are? We've not greeted ourselves today. Can we all stand up where we are and do leg greeting for ourselves? Greet yourself using COVID-19 greeting by using your leg to be able to greet ourselves. Okay? Don't just greet here like this. Go to someone and greet with your leg. Learn how to play small football. When Kamali is saying, best I go to Shumale, it is telling you all these things that you don't know. That is part of safety. So please, that is very good. Having greeted ourselves for being here today is to celebrate ourselves. We are one of the best people that enjoy. We saw people online. Thank you so much. And now, when we've greeted ourselves with COVID-19, we know, next slide, we know that before I quickly start the class, I have two brain teasers, but I want to do only one. Next slide. Just one. Next slide. Don't let me tell you next slide. Just move on. Look at me. Look at me. You move on. Okay, good. Look at this screen, everybody. And I'm going to give whoever get the answer, the first person, a 2,000 naira recharge card. Write 2024 in figure. A, B, C, D. Who knows the answer? 20 and 24. Which one is the answer? And justify your answer. Why others are wrong and why that one is correct. I call you first. Yes.
The answer is B.
The answer is B. Why?
2024. The words, they are all in words.
Why are others wrong?
No, the others won't be correct.
Why?
Because B is just right.
Oh my God, no. I disagree with you. A lady now, a lady. Good. You can't say they be wrong. You are pay pool when you do exam in school. You just be doing ABC.
A is the correct one. Because it's 20. Oh. It said 2024. If you said B is the correct answer, it's 2024.
Thank you. So we're now in 2021. Thank you. You are also wrong, but I'm not sure yet. Yes, a lady.
Okay, I think A is the answer. Sorry, B is the answer. The reason is because if we're going to write 2024 as A, it will be 2 zeros, 2 fours. For me, my answer is...
Thank you very much. God bless you. Now, if you choose A, I suppose to have put 2 zeros, 2 fours. But I say 2 0, 2 4. It's B. Correct. Next slide. Other brain teaser till next year. Where do we start from? Next slide. What is audit? Ask you what audit is, you have various definitions. And your definitions will all be correct because you are professionals. Even if you are a financial auditor, it will still be the same definition. Because it is all about having something to gauge yourself with. This is a standard, and I gauge myself. Am I working in line with this standard? It may not be a standard. It may be a plan of your work in your company. This is a plan of work. Am I in line with the plan of work? It may be a process. This is a process in the company. Am I working in line with the process? That is just what audit is. Let's go on to what audit is. I don't want to create a time for us to discuss. No time. Go on. Move on. Move on. In ISO 9000-2015, that deals with definition of terms in ISO. It says audit is a systematic. It's not something that has no system. It's not something that you don't plan for. I cannot just jump to you now. Good afternoon, I'm from this commission, I'm from this regulator. Go audit. Audit is systematic. You plan it. The auditee will agree with the plan before you go. Continue. Independent. Audit must be independent. What that means is that if I'm auditing a system, there must not be any influence. I must be able to have objectivity. I must not audit because I know this person and I will make sure the person pass. Audit must be independent. Though sometimes when you do internal audit in your organization, yes, it's independent. You must make sure that you don't audit your own process. If someone audits his own process, you will not be able to be objective. You can't be a judge in your own case. Then audit must be documented process. I want to see what is going on. And you use it to obtain what we call audit evidence that this thing is being done, vis-a-vis how to evaluate it in line with the criteria. That is why when you are auditing, there is a criteria that you want to compare with. Is it the process? Is it the plan? Is it ISO standards? So next slide. So now start looking at them. So audit itself financially has to do with different types of audit you have. Always follow the same thing. You want to compare what you are doing to a particular thing that is also there. Therefore, we now divide audit into three. First party, second party, third party. All of them have the same principles of auditing because the principles of auditing are 7 and they are very clear in the slide. So therefore, look at the one we are talking about now. When you say HSE auditor, that means you want to audit the management system. As of 45,001 2018, you want to audit environmental management system. As of 14,001 2015. These are the two ISO I will limit myself to. Next slide. These two standards, if you want to audit, if you are here today and you say, I've been auditing system all a while, and you don't understand ISO 19011 2018, then you are not an auditor. What you have just been doing is cosmetic auditing. You know, cosmetic, artificial auditing. If you want to be a good auditor of a management system, the standard that governs us, the scripture, like Bible and Quran, that govern us is ISO 19011 2018. And if you are talking about certification conformance assessment, that's high level of third-party certification. You can talk about 17021 2015. But you forget that one for now. The most important one for every auditor, wherever you are, is 19011 2018. And it has process. You don't just go to someone and audit. You have written to the person, this is the auditee, I've sent you my audit plan. Auditee say, I will not be chanced at this time. You wait again, you send, I'm chanced, you agree. When you agree, you go for the audit. On the audit day, you do your opening meeting. Let them understand what your audit is all about, what is your criteria, what are you going to use to measure what they are doing. And you let them know that there's confidentiality in what you are doing. So I do not think you want to just take documents away. Having done that, you start your audit by answering questions. You start by checking some documentations. You don't do audit by always asking for document. Most HSE auditors, what you look for is document. But most of us, what we look for is the process being done well. So that we can add value to the audit. Not show me, I show you. Can you imagine somebody asking a question? Do you have HSE policy? The guy say, yes, show me. That's audit? No. Audit is evolving from show me and show you. Audit is now done in a process manner. You ask questions at the right time, in the right place, to the right person, to get the right result, so I can get a good audit conclusion. And when you are asking questions, instead of saying, let me see, do you have policy? He said, yes, you are kept short. But you say, how do you come about your OHS policy? The guy now start to tell you stories. From the stories, you can get more things. So people told me, they said, look, I have checklists. I love checklists. Audit has passed the issue of carrying checklists. All your checklist now. if you say something, there's audit trail we can get from the audit, and the charity becomes so important. Next slide. So therefore, a lot of things are then the principle of audit. We will share ISO 1911 2018 with all those. I will share it with the organizer. They will share with you. Next slide. Now, 2021 has changed audit model to what we call remote auditing now. Now you can audit from here and be auditing somebody in Spain. You can audit from Spain, somebody in Kenya. I have done that before. Very simple. What you need to just have is technology. You have technology, you have your face, you have all the necessary things to get your data and to be able to even see. Somebody asked me a question. Say you are auditing somewhere in Badagry and you say you not go there. I say yes. He said, how will you get what they are doing in the company? I said a lot of technology are there. You can use camera vision, 360-degree camera is there showing it. I'm looking at them here. So these are various ways we can now do audit now. So you can see my lady here doing audit on the screen and asking people simple questions, and they will send any evidence through emails, any evidence through, our Google Drive. You can send evidence through that. Next slide. So the pandemic has told us that we can actually do audit online. So this virtual audit, also called remote audit, also called e-auditing, they are all the same. What they do is that they give us way to talk to our people without being there physically. And please take note. As 2011-20 already talk about it before COVID-19. Before COVID came, when someone say COVID is changing, I say yes. But before COVID, online virtual has already been done. Next slide. And it will reduce your cost. It will reduce carbon footprint. You are not driving any more here. You are not boarding any aeroplane. You are here and auditing somebody from other side. Next slide. Now you can see your technology is very important. You need to involve people. They need to trust the auditor. And you must have a lot of experience. Next slide. Look, these are various things you can use. You can use Skype. You can use Dropbox. You can use Web-based by Cisco. You can use all these ones, and you'll be able to achieve. Next slide. So let us all, as a matter of fact, in conclusion now, we need to know that all this space is changing. Let us all start thinking digital. Let's start thinking how to do things online. HSE professionals, please, you need to start thinking beyond checking system they've told us here. You need to start thinking sustainability. You need to start thinking how people are important to you. No company will exist, no company will survive without people. Sustainability built itself on 3 hinges of things. 1, people. 2, planet. 3, profit. For a business with sustainable, the people are important. You are the people. Auditors are people. Management are people. So without the people, the system cannot exist. Conclusion, I land my plane. Please, thank you so much, and God bless you, and sorry for the rushing. Thank you.
A round of applause for him. He has done justice to that in the few minutes that we gave him, because the next event we need to quickly leave. We want to appreciate, on behalf of the convener and MTC, we want to appreciate every one of us for coming. Like we have said, the Leadership Development Center for HSE will be commencing very soon. So if you are interested to join that center, please put your name with the ushers there so that we can contact you. On behalf of the convener, we appreciate our panelists. We appreciate all our guest speakers. We appreciate everyone that created time to be here. And we wish you fruitful time in your profession. We wish you a very nice time as you practice, as you put all these things into your practice. We want to believe that you will be one of the best professionals of HSE around. And also we want to tell us that as we leave now, the next event is a ticketed event. It has to be by ticket for the entrance, and is commencing anytime soon. So we can go now. We can say hello to everyone around, shake somebody, or you can use your elbow to say hello, and then we
We'll see some other time. Thank you. We appreciate your coming.